So it's one of a bunch of the meetings that there was a period where a lot of it.
All right, Pop.
Maybe, I don't think so.
Steve Kepnes was still there.
Yeah, yeah, he was
He just left last year though, right?
yeah, the last year of my my tenure there, he was not there, like he
Hey,
was
Jeff.
at that time. So I think I was
Good, how are you?
2018 to 2020. Not today, huh?
On this. I showed you.
Mhm.
They made 10.
Harry,
Yes,
can you hear them?
I don't hear them now. I heard them before.
Yeah, I heard them before and they just, the volume just dropped out.
Tell me they can't.
There we go.
It's back.
Not gonna get some.
Call the meeting to order. Will the clerk read the meeting statement?
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public and the press on January 14, 2022 and January 18, 2022, and was posted in the municipal building in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-7.
Thank you. Would you please stand with me and join the pledge to our flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If I may, I'm going to ask you all to please stand with me for one moment. Recently, this past weekend, we had a loss of life in New York City. One of their their policemen, and two were injured very severely. I would ask for a moment of silence, not so much because of what's happened there, but more than that, but because they are truly trying to maintain a spirit of law and order, and in doing so have lost their life. Thank you. Excuse me, any of you like to take a chair and put them over here on the walls? Be my guest. You can pull them right off of there or off of the front. Roll call.
Vice President Bucieri,
Here,
Councilmember Fury,
Here,
Councilmember Lynch,
Here.
Councilman Shortway,
Here,
Council President Rizzuto.
Here. This evening, we have a swearing in for our fire department of a number of people, and I would ask Mayor to please handle this.
Thank you.
Well, Howard, Howard Councilman Lynch, would you like to join the mayor?
I think that this is the mayor's prerogative, and I appreciate the offer, but Mayor, you got it.
Thank you very much. It's my understanding that these are officers from the Vernon Fire Department. 3 officers, would you please come forward, please? Should be 3, I was told. And I guess the others, you guys are just in support of them, am I correct? I want to thank all of our fire department personnel, and especially the ones here tonight from the Vernon Fire Department, because not only do you help to keep us safe, but the Vernon Fire Department plays a very special civic role in our town. You host our annual holiday tree lighting, and you do an excellent job at it on your property. And this year, people tell me it's the largest that they've ever seen. It was really great to have all the families and all the kids there. Number 2, you take down and put up the flags that we have in our little town and whatever holiday decorations we have. And many people don't know, you do this on poles that's not even utility poles that's not owned by the town or the fire department. And that creates its own unique and special challenge. You're always present, and most of the time in your first class gear, or when we have civic events, you have you along with other fire departments, you have your very nice trucks. And I'll tell you, your new pumper is just literally awesome with that huge American flag on it. And that just adds to the events. And the town has purchased a huge American flag. And those of you who were at the Christmas train event would have seen it. It just fills our heart. And you guys play a great part in that. So I'd like to thank you guys for that. And just to say, it's a real honor for me to swear you in. So with that, I'm going to try to get the correct name. Is it Chris Taufik? Christopher. Okay. Would you please repeat your name?
I, Kevin Cook.
Okay.
I, Ronald Christopher. I, Jeff Anderson.
Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
and affirm
and affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same
and I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
and to the governments established in the United States
the governments established in the United States
and in this state
and in this state,
under the authority of the people.
under the authority of the people.
I do further solemnly affirm
I do further solemnly affirm
and that I will faithfully,
I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly
and justly
perform all of the duties
perform all the duties
as a member of the Vernon Township Fire Department
as a member of the Vernon Township Fire Department
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
And gentlemen, this is the part I like, so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. All right, do you guys have family members here? If you guys want to take a photo or something standing here, Mr. Council President, we have the time for that, right?
Certainly.
Yeah, okay. If you guys want to do that. Yeah, come on.
Go ahead.
Family members are as much a part of this as anyone else.
So that you know,
That's you too.
so that you know, the council vice president has taken pictures from up here. So if you'd like to
If you-
see her after the meeting or give her your number, we can forward the pictures.
Great.
Aw.
Nice. Yes.
Levi, Levi. Hi. Because there's so many people in here.
His brother Dara, his other brother. You hear that? Yeah.
Before we move on, I would just like to offer our congratulations to these individuals for the fantastic job they do. I really don't know what people would do and how they would rest, especially in these cold, cold nights, if they didn't have gentlemen like yourself who are willing to come out in these temperatures and place your lives on the line to putting out fires. We thank you. I think a recent event. Thank you, ladies. Florida Estates was, was indicative of what could happen and what does happen. Thank you so much for your service to the community. I've lived in this township for 54 years and have always been protected by a volunteer fire department. And I show no fear because I know that you guys are doing your job. Thank you again.
Thank you.
I seen Ron Christopher Jr. grow up in the fire department. I remember when they were part of Highland Lakes. And I remember when you were real young. Now I'm real old.
Brian has seen 2 Dalmatians grow up.
I want to thank you all for being a part of the greatest brotherhood and sisterhood in the world. Being a fireman is something special. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Right now, we have a presentation from the Vernon Coalition.
And then Tina.
Okay.
So I'm not sure which one is gonna.
Hi there.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Thank you.
Hello.
Feel free to, if you like, drag a chair over if one of you want to sit while the other talks, or it's up to you.
We're not gonna be long. I think we're okay, but thank you. I do have folders. I don't know, Mayor, if you wanna walk back. Thank you.
There.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us here tonight, and thank you, Natalie, for inviting us to speak tonight on the topic of marijuana. And things have certainly changed since the last time we were here. I believe it was 2018 or 2019 that we provided some education on this topic. So it's certainly good to be back and to see some familiar faces. And again, just to provide some further information. So my name is Tina Howie. I'm the Director of Prevention Services at the Center for Prevention and Counseling. We're a nonprofit agency that's been serving the Sussex County community for nearly 50 years. We have a mission to promote health and recovery among all people by creating an environment that state safe from the effects of substance use and addiction. Within our agency, we have 3 pillars. We have a prevention pillar, a treatment pillar, and then a recovery pillar. And I'm here just to talk with you about our prevention pillar. So within our prevention pillar, we have 3 coalitions. We have the Coalition for Healthy and Safe Communities, which is in its 21st year, serving the Sussex County community. And Laura Berger is actually our coalition coordinator for the county, and she's also our youth prevention specialist. And then we have the Vernon Coalition, and many of you know Lisa DeRitter. Lisa has been with the coalition for many years, and the coalition is in its 11th year. It was funded by the CDC for 10 years, and this year we have private funding to continue with Vernon Coalition as the CDC grant had naturally sunsetted. So we're really happy to be able to continue to work with the Vernon Coalition. And then we also have another coalition new to Sussex County. October 2021, we received funding from the CDC, and that's the Walk Hill Coalition. And that's serving the Hardyston, Hamburg, Franklin, Ogdensburg areas of Sussex County. So we're fortunate to have 3 very active coalitions in our county. And the goal of the coalition really is to reduce youth substance use and build partnerships and prevention infrastructure within communities and systems. And our coalitions, there's one of us in every county, at least one of us in every county. And coalitions focus on reducing underage drinking, reducing youth marijuana use, reducing non-medical use of prescription medication, and also addressing emerging trends that we're seeing, specifically right now, talking about stimulants. So tonight, I just want to share some education regarding marijuana. As we know, it's legal here in New Jersey. As more and more states legalize adult use of recreational marijuana, marijuana use among youth has become a major public health concern across the country, across the state, and even here in our little county of Sussex County. So I suspect that people have varying degrees of what the landscape is like here in Sussex County in regards to the cannabis industry. So here in Sussex County, 62% of our municipalities have opted out of all cannabis licensures. About 40% of our municipalities have opted in for license 1 through 4. So that is growing, manufacturing, distribution, and wholesale. And 88% of our municipalities have opted out of retail markets at this time. And statewide, about 70% of our municipalities have opted out of retail markets. So as the landscape continues to change and cannabis becomes more mainstream in New Jersey and in Sussex County, the understanding of public health approaches and strategies are important, especially at a local level. So for the purposes of tonight, we're just going to provide short pieces of education pertaining to marijuana, particularly marijuana as it relates to youth and young adults, and share some public health practices to reduce youth exposure, accessibility, access, and to prevent an even further decline of perception of harm among youth in regards to marijuana use. So I just think it's really important to just quickly talk about today's marijuana and marijuana products. It's certainly a complex drug with not enough research on the long-term effects of today's marijuana, which we know is genetically modified. It has higher levels of THC than marijuana that I might be used to when I was in the 70s and 80s. Back then, the THC was 3 to 5%. Right now, it's anywhere between 15 to 25%, depending on the products. So it is an addictive substance. 1 in 9 adults and 1 in 6 youth become addicted to the substance. And I just want to share that the Surgeon General released an advisory regarding marijuana and the developing brain. And I provided it to you in your packets. And I just want to share one piece of information. This comes from the Surgeon General's office. The risk of addiction and other negative consequences increase with exposure to high concentrations of THC and the younger the age of initiation. So right now we have the youngest kids smoking the most potent marijuana. So that's our concern. Research regarding higher potency marijuana. So you'll see in your folders, if you take a look at that advisory, it also talks about implication to brain development among adolescents, decrease in performance, the impact of marijuana on mental health, as well as a connection to more serious mental health challenges. So our goal tonight, we know there's retail cannabis. That's not what we're talking about. That's not what we're disputing or even, saying no to. Our goal here tonight is to talk about prevention efforts to reduce youth exposure and access and increase youth and adult perception of harm by providing education about the substance itself, but also talking about best practices. So I want to share just some of the stats that we have here in Sussex County, specifically Vernon, in regards to marijuana use. In 2019, 24% of Vernon's 11th graders and 27% of Vernon's 12th graders reported using marijuana within the last year. Perception of harm from using marijuana within our 6 to 12th grade population went from 73% in 2015 to 60% in 2019. And then additionally, if you look at New Jersey Emergency Department utilization rates, so across the state, for cannabis diagnosis, across the state, there was an increase of 7% statewide among the age groups of 0 to 17. But here in Sussex County, it increased 56%.
What increased 56%?
So New Jersey Emergency Department utilization rates in terms of cannabis within the 0 to 17 year age group. Statewide, there was a 7% increase in utilization, but here in Sussex County, there was a 56% increase in utilization of our emergency department due to cannabis. So I'm sharing these numbers with you to help raise awareness about the importance of doing all we can as a community to help keep kids safe, and as policies and regulations are being created to support local cannabis businesses. So Laura is our youth prevention specialist. I think Laura can talk a little bit more about what some of those public health approaches are in regards to cannabis industry.
Thanks, Tina. Can you hear me all right?
Right.
Thank you, Tina, for pointing out. I think talking about the potency is something that really important that's not always brought to light as much, and how potent today's marijuana actually is. But as Tina mentioned, really a public health goal is to limit youth exposure by increasing protective factors and decreasing risk factors, which is really the goal of our Vernon Coalition, who does a lot of really great work. I know that you're familiar in Vernon. So this can happen at an individual level, a relationship level, all the way up to a community level. So one thing specifically I want to point out was the perception of harm. So we didn't get into the brain science today and how marijuana affects our youth's brain. We could do a really long presentation on that, and I really like the science. So if you want to hear it, I'm definitely open to it. But when we're talking about perception of harm, it's an important topic because we have the research showing that it is harmful for our youth and for their brains. So the more youth are exposed to a drug, the more likely they are to use. And really we see this across the board in terms of alcohol, in terms of tobacco. We have a lot of research that backs showing that the more people are exposed, the more likely they are to use. So this can include a physical environment and how and where youth see substances being used. This can also include where they're being sold. So places like a route to school or close to a place where families congregate would be considered by public health best practices an inappropriate place. And some other factors, which I know you guys, the ordinance that you wrote is really awesome, and I can tell that you, and even just tonight, I know that community is really important and families are really important to you guys. And I could tell in reading your ordinance that you took that into account in how you made the ordinance to really protect the youth, excuse me. So some other factors, which it seems like you probably have considered, include allocating funds for the impact being sold in the community. And I know that included law enforcement, so impaired driving, mental health disorders like Tina pointed out, effects of affects really on minority groups. And that also includes the LGBTQ plus community. And really workplace safety. Just some other parameters, you know, when we're talking about marijuana to keep in mind. So I think that what we also know from alcohol is that there are high economic costs when alcohol is misused. And that's shown, the CDC has their numbers that they can count it down to how much a drink costs in economic costs or an economic burden. So while I'm definitely not comparing the two drugs, I think that where we are right now is really at a place of opportunity. And it's exciting because you as leaders in the community have the ability to put parameters in place that protect our youth and that really look out for long-term community impact. So that's all I have. And if you do want more info about what the youth are doing, we're definitely open to giving more information. Oh, and in your, actually, I'll give it out, but we did include, we have signage just from our tobacco team, Tobacco Free for Healthy New Jersey. Actually, I'll show it to you, but it's pretty easy about how marijuana is, and cannabis, excuse me, is included in the Smoke-Free Air Act. So if your municipality doesn't want to obtain signs that now include cannabis, just that it's not allowed in your bars, you can reach out to us.
Nice.
I have a question.
Okay.
You mentioned just a few moments ago that you're in favor of what we are doing in trying to build to set in strong parameters for the use of this drug. Would you say then that trying to set at this point, we can't put the horse back in the barn. It's running free. It's like putting toothpaste back in the tube.
Right.
Perhaps if we had some agreement with other people, and there may be ways to do it, but I seriously doubt. But if in fact it became the intention of the council to try and make these parameters so stringent or setting a bar so high that people who would tend to either use the drug or go where it's available would find that fact that it's not so easy to get. Would that be a situation that you would, I guess, applaud? If not applaud, approve.
I'll take that. Okay. I mean, I think, our goal really is limiting youth exposure and decreasing youth substance use. We do counseling we're on the prevention team, but we do counseling with Utilization.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think that would be a yes to the answer to do.
So basically, if we set the parameters high enough so that youth aren't able to get in there into a retail establishment very readily, and that other additional retail establishments that are going to be brought into the community would not find the ability to set these up to be inconsequential in cost and commitment. So you're saying that's probably a good thing rather than a bad thing.
I think it's, if I understand your question, I think it's important to take in several factors. One is, you want to make sure there are safeguards in place so that youth obviously can't access cannabis in the retail markets. But I think you also need to take in consideration where retail markets are going to be opening. Do you want it near a place where kids congregate? Do you want it near a place where families go to hang out and to have a picnic or go to a park? Do you want it on your main, on a main street where, and I'll just take, I think it's kind of what we're all here talking about. Do we want a place right down the street from Mountain Creek where there's, a lot of activity that goes on there with summer sports and winter sports? So I think there's just some things to take into consideration. It's not recommended to put a retail market where kids congregate, where kids can drive by often. They see that signage, they see the advertising. It's not like there's content neutral advertising with the marijuana industry. Or the cannabis industry. It is on the windows, it is on the, around the building. So where kids can see it, it normalizes it. And then it decreases their perception of harm, and then it increases use. So that's I think all things that you need to take in consideration.
Okay, thank you.
Can you, thank you for coming, ladies. Can you briefly touch on, I know that you worked with Newton when they drafted their ordinance. Can you briefly touch on some of the, advice or guidance that you gave them and how they wrote that in their ordinance and how it affected their decision? Just briefly. I mean, I'm sure it was a lot of meetings, but
No.
so that, we could understand that better.
So we had reached out to Newton. We had reached out to many of the municipalities that were looking into setting up cannabis markets in their communities. And there were three. It was Sussex, Vernon, and Newton. We had worked with Newton. We had shared with them some of the SAMHSA and CDC and NIDA best practices.
And what's SAMHSA?
Substance Abuse and Mental Health Service Administration. They have a guide, kind of like a guide, best practices that you follow, lessons learned from places like Colorado and California. So when you look at all of this information, there were some guidance that came out specifically from California that talked about having a 1,000-foot buffer zone around places of worship, places of daycare, public parks, ball fields, rec places. It also talked about signage. It talked about hours of operation. It talked about limiting consumption lounges. It talked about like the advertising that's done like on a sidewalk.
Sandwich boards or?
Yes, and I'll tell you what, we had a sandwich board stringer on Spring Street right outside the window where I worked. And, it talks about things like that because that's attractive, to young people. So they did take into consideration some of those things, a lot of those things. And in fact, in Newton, they're allowing retail shops on two streets, Mill Street and Water Street. Their hours of operation are limited. They're closed on Sundays. And they also passed an ordinance that prohibits marijuana use on public property. So walking down the street, walking down 206, walking down Spring Street. So not only where it's already prohibited in your county parks, but also in your public places. And, I was talking to the mayor and, he's had offered to reach out and talk with any of the municipalities that would like some further guidance on and how they worked their ordinance because, they went back and forth too. There was some struggles and some conversations about what's right for their community. And that's what it comes down to, what's right for your community. They wanted retail market, they just did it, they wanted to do it the smart way. So they took their time and figured it out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the council? Mike?
No, I'm
Any
okay.
other questions?
No, I'm okay. Thank you.
Harry?
That he was okay.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, ladies. Thank you.
May we have comments from Mayor, please?
Mr. Council President and other council members, I use my comments tonight to express my pleasure in being able to appoint 2 residents who have volunteered to serve our town and to express my great regret not been able to have an opportunity to appoint another resident who has also volunteered to serve our town. One of the things that make our town such a good place in which to live and to raise a family is the fact that the overwhelming number of residents literally like living here. And that good feeling about living in our town is reflected in part in the constant number of municipal volunteer applications that the mayor's office receives throughout the year. In addition to the volunteer applications that resulted in the appointments that I made at our first council meeting of this year, during the past 2 weeks, I have received 3 additional volunteer applications. It was with gratitude that I received a volunteer application from Mrs. Sally Rinka. I have a special appreciation for the strong will and determination that's reflected in her decision to return to public service after some time to herself dealing with some serious family matters. Mrs. Rinka has volunteered to serve on the Economic Development Advisory Committee and will bring to this committee a host of knowledge and valuable experiences gained from her 38 years as a town resident, as the owner operator of a construction company, and her service to the town as a council member and a former mayor. I hereby appoint her to a 1-year term on the Economic Development Advisory Committee. And I'd like to say, welcome back, Mrs. Rinka. I also received a second volunteer application to serve on the Economic Development Advisory Committee. This application came from Mrs. Stephanie Munson, who requests to be reappointed to another 1-year term on this committee, and I hereby do so. Mrs. Munson's training and experience in environmental construction project management, her New Jersey Department of Community Affairs certification as a construction code technical assistant, and her ownership of a consulting firm will enable her to continue to be a key asset to our town on our Economic Development Advisory Committee. Our volunteers continue to help us to be what I always call Vernon strong. It is with great regret that at this time, I'm not able to appoint a third Vernon resident to a volunteer position in which she also wants to serve our town. This is a position on the Municipal Land Use Board. At this time, I'm not able to appoint this Vernon resident to serve because the council president declined to allow my resolution to appoint this individual to be a part of this meeting's agenda. 5 days ago, I inquired with the council president as to why this was the case. But I'm sure he will reply to me, but as of yet, I have not received a reply. The Land Use Board is a statutory board that's created by land use law and is one of the most important and influential boards in any municipality. The Land Use Board is responsible for the municipality's master plan and controls the development and use of land within the municipality in accordance with the municipality's master plan. This includes the selection of land for recreation, open space, and residential and business development. This board is also responsible for reviewing, approving, or denying all site plan and subdivision applications. Additional responsibilities of the Land Use Board include hearing and deciding appeals, hearing and deciding variances from applications of zoning provisions, and for the issuance of all variances. Vernon Township has a strong and a very competent Land Use Board. And tonight, it was my intent and desire to make an appointment that will only enhance the strength and the competency of this board. My intent and my desire was to appoint Dr. Jacqueline Haley to this board. Dr. Haley is a 16-year plus resident with a master's in international business and a PhD in economic development. She has served as a consultant to organizations in the areas of community development, neighborhood planning, and affordable housing. Her training and experience will be an asset to our Land Use Board in ensuring that proposed projects conform to our municipal master plan and development ordinances, satisfy public concerns, and meet reasonable design standards. This is an important board, that works best when it has its full complement of authorized members. And therefore, I plan to resubmit this resolution to be included on the next council meeting agenda to appoint Dr. Jacqueline Haley to fill a Class 4 four-year term on the Vernon Township Land Use Board. Mr. Council President and council members, that concludes my formal mayor's comments tonight.
Thank you, Mayor. Going to move to public comments for agenda items only.
Motion?
May I have a motion to have the floor open for questions? Motion made by Mr. Lynch. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Bucieri. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Motion is carried. Thank you. Floor is open for questions. Please step to the podium. Doing so, please give us your address, what section of town you reside in, and your name, please. Thank you.
Good evening, Doreen Edwards, Highland Lakes. I was very pleased to see the swearing in of the additional firefighters. I guess they've been in service and they've got a promotion, if I understood it correctly. So congratulations to them. I just wanted to say, it's not a question, I just wanted to say how proud I am that we still have our volunteer fire department and EMS, because I know years ago, there was stories going around that perhaps that wasn't going to happen and they were looking to do paid, and I'm glad that didn't happen. Excuse me, I'm a little out of breath. It brings the community together. Besides the things they do with the parades and everything else, it's a great service to the community. And I have to say, if you get those little envelopes in the mail and you don't have the funds, then hold it aside until you have the funds and send in to EMS and our volunteer fire people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have any comments? Not,
I have a question.
comments from,
Yes, I have Randolph Mowry.
Mr. Mowry? Can you hear it?
Yes, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
So thank you for the opportunity to speak. I would like to speak about the ordinance 2201, the revised version of the cannabis ordinance 21-25 that was.
Excuse me, Mr. Mowry, can you tell us where you live, what section of Vernon?
I apologize, I forgot to do that. I live in Highland Lakes.
Thank you.
I strongly support the change to the section 2 of the ordinance, proposed ordinance 2201. On the eligible locations requirement that changes the word park to municipally designated park. Because the pump track is named the Town Center Biking and Walking Trail, this really resolves the issue of Healthy Times proximity to the trail. Thus, they can move forward with their license application with the Shrine Group. But I would also argue that the intent of the distance requirement in the ordinance was not to measure distance as the crow flies, but by, quote, normal means of access, that is, by roads, streets, sidewalks. Using that common sense interpretation would mean that Healthy Times is not within 2,000 feet of the pump track. In fact, as by Google Maps, it's a half mile, which is approximately 2,600 feet. If Healthy Times and the Shrine Group are allowed to, if the distance issue and the park issue has been resolved, then they can move ahead with their application to the state. And Vernon, if that application is approved, Vernon will benefit from the tax revenues that sales will generate. The $175,000 per year Shrine Group contribution to the township, plus the dispensary will generate jobs. These new funds will provide Vernon with badly needed money to develop a more vibrant and inviting town center, and for other purposes that money can be used for. And having this more improved town center seems to be a longstanding goal. I strongly urge that the council members support the proposed ordinance 2201 and let this economic opportunity proceed.
Thank you.
I imagine, is my time up?
Yeah, you can finish up, please.
Okay, my last little comment is, I imagine that some council members may have personal beliefs about, quote, drug use. I would hope that you can honor the vote that the Vernon Township voters made in November when 7% voted for legalization. I also comment about the Vernon Coalition presentation that Mountain Creek is 0.8 miles, according to Google Maps, from Healthy Times. And that the protections in the ordinance for underage access are so strong that really isn't a problem, and are certainly far stronger than what exists for alcohol and tobacco retailers.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else?
Yes, Emily Mintier.
Mrs. Minter? Ms. Minter?
You speak louder.
Hello, my name is Emily Mintier. I live here in Vernon. I attend the Vernon Township High School and I'm a member of the Vernon Action Group. I don't want a cannabis dispensary in Vernon because how marijuana usage could affect teenagers and children here. How is the Vernon Town Council planning to prevent teens and children from being exposed to people selling and using marijuana in Vernon? Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I say something or are you?
Can we wait until afterward?
Oh, yeah.
I don't see any other hands up right now.
Nobody? Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got a couple up. Jesse Palladini.
That's the one. This is the one.
Ms. Palladini.
Palladini, go ahead.
Council President Rizzuto, I have put together 2 pages of statistics and facts that I have been researching. And I want to know if you would possibly allow me to trade minutes from this session and the second session. I'm willing to take fewer minutes at the second session if you'll allow me to finish reading my entire statement for this one. It's very important for Vernon.
I understand what you're saying. Let's see what we can do within the allotted time, okay? And then, I've been very flexible and I don't see why I can't continue to do so. So please go ahead.
Because it's really all a package.
We're wasting time.
Okay. My beginning comments are directed to the mayor and former council. My last statements will be directed to the new council members. The resolutions, bid specs, bids, contracts, and ordinances concerning the bicycle pump track, the trail, and the entire town center park concept have been fraught with deception, error, and even illegalities. Right from the get-go, the resolution to approve the funds for the bicycle pump track was illegal. On June 26, 2020, the council unanimously approved the expenditure of $150,000 for the pump track, but there was no resolution on the agenda, no language written for a resolution, no resolution period. Councilwoman Murphy ad-libbed the wording as she went along, and they took a vote. A few days later, a resolution appeared that was signed by the town clerk that said, "I certify this is a true copy of the resolution adopted by the Council of Vernon at their meeting held on June 26th. I'm sorry, that was 2019, my era, at the Vernon Municipal Center," except it was not. That certification is false. Look at the minutes of that meeting to this day. It is called Resolution 20-. It's not even numbered because it was not a legal resolution that the council could vote on that night. You approved, meaning the mayor and the former council, you approved a resolution that was not on the agenda and not even written. You just wrote it as you went along. I'm sorry, I'm repeating myself here. Hold on. Okay. Next, you put out bid specs for a pump track that specified that the successful bidder must have built at least 3 bicycle pump tracks. Engineer Corey Stoner recommended you accept the bid from Spawn Ranch, despite the Spawn Ranch bid having a fatal flaw. They had only built 1 pump track in California, and that's really more of a skateboard park. Councilman Fury told us they built hundreds, which was false. Spawn Ranch told me in writing and on the phone that they only built the one in California, which is more of a skateboard park. Yet, Mr. Stoner did not even verify the accuracy of the bid and recommended that you accept it. In his recommendation, Corey claimed Spawn Ranch, and I quote, met all of the administrative requirements when in fact they did not. Mr. Stoner should be held accountable for damages through his errors and omissions insurance for this negligence. You will recall that the town did not even get soil conservation permits for grading and moving the soil. Citizens found that out and exposed that too. Then Spawn Ranch did not even do the site preparation, grading as the contract specified, or the heavy equipment rental as the contract specified. All of this was done by the DPW at added cost to Vernon taxpayers. They did not even complete the job how and when the contract specified. All of this on top of a DPW dump site where the mayor refused to do deep soil borings to make sure that that property is environmentally safe. Then they entered into negotiations to buy a piece of property that had been the 15-year subject of toxic spills and remediation as specified in the DEP lawsuit against Baldwin. The consent judgment of that lawsuit was only signed in 2020 and is Superior Court docket number L28404. Yet the township plowed ahead to buy the property. The ordinance giving the mayor the authority to negotiate for this property states that the mayor was only authorized to acquire the property after obtaining a clear Phase 1 environmental assessment. The Phase 1 was not clear. The purchase should have stopped then and there. In addition, there was no resolution of approval even by the council for the costs of either the Phase 1 or the Phase 2 study, which should not have even proceeded. That is illegal. The council approved all expenditures by resolution. I have half a page left. Now we learn that. Now, I'm sorry?
Go ahead, please. Finish up. Finish up.
Now we learn that the Phase 2 study shows toxic soil.
Excuse me. Excuse me. Hold on, please. You're out of order.
So is she.
No, I'm running the meeting, not you. Please.
To everybody else?
I will handle the meeting. You can provide your input when requested. Go ahead. Please finish up.
The results of Phase 1 and
I
Phase
can't, we can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
Now, okay.
You deceptively kept the results of the phase 1 and phase 2 studies from the public for months. It only came out after I exposed it, months after the study was done. This toxic condition of the soil has been ongoing for more than 15 years. Read the consent judgment. Now I'm
Thank you.
going to briefly address the new.
No, thank you very much, Jesse. We're going on 6 minutes now. Thank you. Perhaps you can bring it up at the latter part of the meeting. Thank you.
By then it might be too.
Well, let's,
I have Peg DeStassi.
Mrs. DeStassi?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Peg DeStassi, Glenwood. And I just want to make it known that I am a member of the Vernon Environmental Commission, but tonight I speak for myself.
Okay.
The environmental issues at the Baldwin site are enormous and long-standing. That site has been a landfill for generations. The DEP sued the Baldwins in 2004 for toxic contamination. In 2018, a consent order was issued that the owner would continue remediation and not go to trial. In 2020, Vernon offered to purchase the lot in spite of that. The toxic spill contamination was seepage onto Church Street and Omega Drive, causing water issues. If the town purchases this property, it also purchases in perpetuity the environmental issues of contamination. The possibility of gigantic costs of cleanup expenses is high. In addition, if anyone, especially children, are exposed to carcinogenic materials, what is the township's liability? Do we want to assume responsibility for that? There is too high of a risk to proceed with this purchase. I ask that you negate the contract based on the point that it did not receive a clear phase 1 in the contract, as it should have been avoided out at that time. Can Vernon afford to assume this? Why put this onus on the town taxpayers? Please cancel the Baldwin contract and the Sporn Ranch contract and any other further action on the pump track or trail until all of this can be researched and viability determined. I have a couple more minutes, so I'd like to speak to 21-52. That resolution quotes that Vernon suffered a large cyber event and consequently is paying a higher premium. Can the mayor please explain what happened and if the required subjectives of the underwriter have been completed? The last thing that I'd like to ask is, it may not apply here, but I will ask it. If the council can give a report on the follow-up on the ice situation that has been occurring on Karen Road that was brought up at the last meeting, if anything has been done on that.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Mrs. DeStassi.
You're welcome.
Do we have anybody else?
Yeah, I have Ann Larson.
Mrs. Larson, Ann Larson?
I think she just. She's actually not there anymore, but I have Kate Salerno.
I'm sorry,
Kate Salerno.
Kate Salerno? Are you there?
Can you unmute, please?
Going to need an unmute sign.
There you go.
Can you hear me?
Kate
Hi.
Salerno.
Yeah. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Please
Okay.
speak up.
Okay, sorry. I just was listening to Ms. Palladini's statement. There's a lot to unpack there, I think. I just was curious to know if her statement was at all related to the extremely racist post that she made on Facebook earlier, and how the town council feels about that. and how that relates to the statement she's making now, which is very emotionally charged. I would just love some clarification on all of this, including where the council stands on that extremely racist statement that's since been deleted. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
How about that?
Nicholas Dubois.
Sorry,
Nicholas Dubois.
Mr. Dubois?
Dubois, you pronounced it correctly, thank you. I'll be brief. I spoke last time. And I'd like to add can I be heard?
May I have your address, please?
Yes, I live in Pleasant Valley Lake. I've been there
Thank
for
you.
over 40 years.
Thank you.
Like some members of the council, I share the reservations a lot of people have about recreational marijuana, and I was touched by the young woman who spoke about, as a youth, about her concern. I share that concern, but not in the case before the council because of the rigor with which these rules are being enforced and will be enforced by the prospective licensees, Dan and Danny Siegel. We have to put our reservations aside because our children are going to grow up in a state where recreational marijuana is available and legal. And there will be problems. There are problems with alcohol. There are problems with tobacco. But I know with the prospective licensees, they will set the gold standard. I know from the nature of the health food business that they've run for many years, people come there for counseling. And in this case, Dr. Siegel has a PhD in I believe it's herbal medicine or herbology, but I mean, my God, how perfect. People will come to Vernon, not for vice, but for advice, and rightly so. So we can't stop the wave, but we could possibly guide it and certainly keep our own citizens from traveling to who knows where. I believe people must go with the closest medical facility is in Montclair, I believe. And I'd interject, I stopped in there when I had other business in Montclair one day. I'll tell you, it's I've seen pictures on TV of people looking through glass cases like they're at a jeweler's or a baker and looking at all the different plants. There was none of that. It looked like a security company lobby. Two polite people asked me if I had a medical card. And I said no, and you know, they were very apologetic but firm. So I have no concerns about youth slipping in there. I would like to see Vernon's business flourish and have people come here because it is the best and most reliable place to come and spend some money, or as happened in my own case, we're hypnotized by the scenery and came to love the town and move here or spend part of the year here or come here for recreation, which I
Thank you, Mr. Dubois.
That's the point of the pump track. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
I have Ann Larson back.
Larson?
Miss Larson?
Yes, I'm here. It's unmuted. Is it working?
Yes.
Okay, good evening. So thank you for letting me speak for a moment. I have a couple things to discuss at the moment regarding what Mrs. Palladino mentioned. It brings to mind a much bigger issue. The townspeople should be able to rely on the mayor and the council for truthful statements. This was obviously not the case prior to this council right now being seated. I mean, we received incorrect information, sometimes downright lies, left and right. The information was changed back and forth. For her to go to this length, these are people that are employed in the town and are spending their hard-earned taxes subsidizing what's going on in town hall. We're being given the runaround by some of these informations that we're receiving. So we have to find a way to get to the bottom of the truth. So that said, being that it is as conflicted as it appears to be, I would suggest we nullify the contract, we nullify the purchase there, we nullify Spawn Ranch, and perhaps we start over. Maybe we started back in Maple Grange, but this is crazy to just keep continuing on unraveling story after story. So that's one thing. Regarding the head shop, I'd like to say that I guess maybe perhaps the mayor could have done more research before he made this giant presentation last week about it, because quite honestly, without having any effort at all, I found out apparently other towns are being offered far more money than the $175,000. That was enough to make his eyes glaze over. Okay, Kinnelon was offered 10% of gross receipts in addition to the 2% tax. So I think perhaps had he been prepared when he went to the meeting, or he did some research after that meeting and prior to discussing with the rest of the community, I think we would have a different picture of what's going on. The bottom line is, if the pump track remains, they need to move. And as far as the previous gentleman saying we're getting jobs, if I understood correctly, they have to close the health food store to open the pot store. So I don't see any gain in jobs there. This could definitely be done better, but the previous council was lied to when they were led to believe that a 2,000-foot buffer was there. And the mayor led them believe that he supported it. And now, a week ago, that wasn't true. I realize is buffer zone proper. Okay. So the council arriving at a decision, and now poof, without even using it, we're going to change things because now the mayor has a different idea and different friends want to open another store. This isn't how you do things. If you make a rule, you stick with it. If it doesn't work down the road, that's another story. But I think you could have a Healthy Times store and a pot store elsewhere in town if you follow the guidelines and went within the 2,000-foot buffer. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Sean Clarkin.
Mr. Clarkin? Mr. Clarkin?
Muted.
Is there anyone else?
I don't see any other hands.
Okay, while Mr. Clarkin tries to get unmuted, perhaps, yes, please.
I just did it.
Oh, okay. Thank you. All right.
Sorry about that. All right. I think if you go back and you go to the meeting notes.
I can't hear you.
Who said what? What was represented?
Mr. Clarkin?
Yes.
Please turn off any devices in the background.
One second. Okay, I think that.
Mr. Clarkin?
If we go back and we review what was being said, I very strongly remember the mayor referring to commitments made to citizens that were very concerned about the marijuana location and how far from the school. And he adamantly went out of his way to assure those citizens that he would never do this, that, or the other thing to put children in harm, and that he adamantly believed that the distance was required. Now, recently, when the issue came back up, the mayor, I could swear, I remember hearing him say he had said that, but he was trying to make a deal. So the mayor was retracting commitments he made to citizens of Vernon earlier because he was trying to make a deal. And now he's turning around and he's saying that the distance isn't that necessary. The mayor's job is to represent the citizens of Vernon. And if he has to lie to make deals, I have a problem believing anything that the gentleman says. As a real estate agent, I am held to a very high standard of ethics. All right. And I'm just a real estate agent. What is the level of ethics that our mayor is held to? Is he allowed to lie 6 months ago to get a marijuana store in approval? And then 6 months go by when somebody wants to do it, he's allowed to do a total U-turn? I have serious reservations about the mayor believing anything that the mayor says. All right. And I think that if we all go back and we all look at those notes, we're going to realize that the mayor is contradicting himself. And this is just the one time that I realized that he's contradicting himself. Can we believe what the mayor tells us in the future? The mayor is a visitor at these meetings. I don't know why he's given more privileges than the citizens. If I'm only allowed to speak for 3 minutes, or I'm only allowed to speak for 5 minutes, the mayor should be held to the same time limitations. Is the mayor better than me? I'm a taxpayer. He works for me. He works for all the taxpayers. Why are the taxpayers limited and the mayor gets to rattle on for hours about all of his achievements, which, to be honest, turn out to be a lie? So I have serious reservations about the mayor continuing for 2 more years in the position he's in. I would like the mayor to be sworn in prior to speaking at these meetings. I want him held accountable for what he says. I want to know that the mayor of Vernon is speaking the truth when he speaks at these meetings.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clarkin.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Is there anybody else?
Laura Jones Rabbit.
Sorry?
The people here.
You'll get you,
Hi.
please.
Hello.
Yes.
Hi.
go ahead.
Hi. I'm part of a Sussex County anti-racist coalition that tracks racism. And we do this for data analysis, not only to fight racism, but we track government's reactions to racism. And so I'm here tonight just to ask about a racist post that was made concerning the mayor. And we really want yes.
Excuse me. The first 3 minutes of the meeting are for agenda items only. You can carry this over until towards the end of the meeting when you're free to speak on any issue.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing anything.
Thank you. Yes. Do you have a comment?
Yes. Hi, my name is Carl Contino. I'm from Lake Conway, and I just have a little question. I heard before that the mayor was planning to appoint Dr. Haley to a land use board, I believe it was. I just would like a little bit more elaboration on why that's not happening today, because I know her personally and I know she'd be a very good fit. And I just would like a little bit of elaboration on what they mentioned before.
She's not on the agenda. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Camilla DeResta. I'm from Glenwood and I would like to speak about the marijuana. So I feel like we're wasting our time focusing on a law that's been passed about the perimeter of where to buy these things. These kids can see this stuff on TV and the news. Why not put your money in fentanyl or heroin use that's going on in this town? And like maybe put the money in education and not smoke here, you can't smoke here. I'm like, that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Please, is there anyone else who would like to address the council? Is there anyone? Yes,
I don't have any other hands up.
since there's nobody virtual, there's nobody else in the room, I'll ask for a motion to close the meeting to the.
Motion.
Motion made by Mr. Lynch. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Shortley. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. There are some 2 items for this up for discussion. One is the issue of on the pump track. on the Baldwin property. Before we get too far into that, I do have some questions. Mayor, I had sent you a request for this, some information on January 12th. Have you been able to provide that?
I do have some information.
No,
I
I believe I sent you a list of 10 questions and I asked you to have it. I spoke with you about it and I, as recently as today, and asked you if they were, copies were available so I could give it to the members of the council. And at that point, you were still, I believe, working on it.
Right.
I just didn't know if you had completed it.
I've got responses to those questions now.
You don't have it printed out.
I've got my document printed. I'll be more than glad to print this out, print out my comments and give them to you in the council, Mr. Council President.
Do all the council members have a list of the questions that I had sent to the mayor? Yes, thank you. Go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead. Okay. At that January 10th council meeting, you asked that I provide the council certain information concerning there's two special amenities, a town center walking and biking trail and the town center bicycle pump track that the town is in the process of implementing. And we're doing that as attractions and catalysts to help inspire the much needed development in our town center. Mr. Council President, council members, over the past 2 years during which I've worked on the development and implementation of these two special amenities, I have coordinated with the council most of the matters that you have requested that I discuss. However, since there are new members on the council, I'd like to thank Council President Rizzuto for the opportunity to update these new council members on these matters, some of which are in the past and have already been decided, and a few that focus on present and future potential issues. The council president asked that I provide this information as responses to 10 questions. And I will do so tonight. I believe that it will be more beneficial to our mutual communication of these two matters if I first provide the council my responses to the several questions that the council president Rizzuto proposed. And then I will hear from the council any clarifications that they might need. Questions 1 and 2 that was provided by the council president. What are the factors that stood in the way of obtaining an easement from HR2 Development Corporation, which is one of Mr. Andy Moblehill's companies? And what are the reasons that the mayor and council decided to move away from the HR2 Development Corporation property and to look for other avenues that would allow the town to construct the town center walking and biking trail from the municipal center area to the town center location of the planned pump track? My response is that after some weeks of discussions with Mr. Andy Moblihill, as part of my attempts to convince him to allow his company, HR2 Development, to give the town a special easement through which we could construct a portion of the planned town center walking and biking trail. In early October of 2020, I informed the council that Mr. Moblihill and I had reached an agreement which would lead to HR2 Development giving the town a clear and simple easement through which a portion of the town center walking and biking trail could be constructed. Based on my word to the council, on October the 26th, 2020, the council approved ordinance number 20-18, granting me authority to accept this promised gift of an easement from Mr. Moblihill on behalf of the town. Immediately after the ordinance was made official by my signature and the signature of the municipal clerk, I forwarded a copy of the ordinance to Mr. Moblihill, along with a copy of the easement agreement to be signed and a map of the easement that he and I had agreed would be granted. However, HR2 Development's legal counsel recommended to Mr. Moblihill that he not sign the lease agreement until a host of legal issues that he had identified were resolved. Over the weeks, as the town would resolve one of these issues, HR2 development would identify a new issue that they require to be resolved. One of the most complex and time-consuming and costly issues grew to be one concerning the easements and our covenants related to the solar panels farm that existed on this HR2 property, plus other existing easements and our covenants that were also existing on this property. After spending a considerable amount of time and some human resources trying to resolve these and other conflicting issues, and after objectively evaluating the likelihood that we would be able to ever fully resolve all of these complex issues, I made the decision to move away from the HR2 Development Corporation property and to look for other avenues that would allow the town to construct a town center walking and biking trail from the municipal center to the town center location of the planned municipal pump track.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
Yes,
Regarding that particular issue,
yes.
the conditions that were brought forth by HR2 and Mr. Mulvihill,
Yeah.
did they rise to the level of $289,000?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't put a dollar figure on them.
I don't know how you could say the situation was untenable unless you valued it some way when the alternate was to buy a piece of property for $289,000. To me, it's a question of the reason why you were going to go for an easement was to avoid having that purchase made. And then when you left the question of the easement and moved to buying a piece of property, I would have thought that the reason why was that the value of what was required was greater than the cost of the property that you were going to purchase.
No, that was,
So my point, the point I'm making is if you did not come up with that value judgment, then you didn't complete the proposition.
that's your opinion, Mr. Rizzuto.
Well, I don't.
That's your way of thinking, and I know what your opinion is, and I accept it, I hear it. That's your opinion. I don't
Thank
agree
you,
with it.
thank you.
Okay,
But I'd still think $289,000 is probably a lot more than the cost of whatever was required at this point for Mr. Mulvihill and HR2. Thank you.
you bet. Go to question number 3. This question relates to the real estate appraisal value, the property tax value, and the reason that the mayor and council made the decision to purchase the Baldwin property to be used to construct a portion of the town center walking and biking trail. A large amount of documented, positive, and credible civic and commercial data reveals that in other communities throughout our nation, like Vernon, where their town center areas exist along busy, heavily traveled state and county highways that make it not safe for residents and visitors to leisurely walk or bike. In other communities throughout our nation like this, planned amenities like the planned walking and biking trail serve as a strong attraction and service catalyst to bring a host of individuals and potential new customers into the town center area. And that these potential new customers often serve as a motivation to enterprising business owners to develop new businesses within the town center. My commitment to reasonable investment in our town center area has been, and quite frankly still is, motivated by the simple fact that we need town center commercial development in order to provide more municipal tax dollars to help our homeowners share the cost of an effective and efficient municipal government, and to provide our residents the initial services and conveniences that they want and that they need. Consistent with this commitment, I joined with the council to find another route for the municipality to construct the town center walking and biking trail from the municipal center area to the town center location of the planned pump track. After the council and I identified the Baldwin property as a possible option, consistent with the appropriate state required procedures, the town requested and received 2 real estate appraisals as to the value of this property. One appraisal valued this property at $304,000, and the other valued this property at $290,000. Through negotiations with the owners of the Baldwin property, the town agreed to purchase this property for the price of $289,000.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Did you not receive a letter from your own EDAC signed by, I believe, Mrs. Rinker, among others, that are strongly objecting to the removal of this piece of property from the tax rolls and using it for this enterprise.
Yeah, that's an advisory committee. They gave me that advice. I considered that advice and made a different decision.
Right.
Okay.
Considering the fact that it was one of the premium pieces of commercial properties with sewer, being able to have sewer attachments or sewer access very nearby.
This was not a premium piece of property that was available for sewer access. This piece of property here is not in our sewer service area. And the DEP said it would never be allowed to be in our sewer service area.
I don't recall that statement. As a matter of fact, I recall a statement from Mr. DeMuro, who simply said he was never queried on that particular situation.
Who was Mr. DeMuro?
He was a member,
The DEP.
he works for the DEP.
Your information is different from mine. I don't know anything about that statement or from Mr. DeMuro.
Well, I can read it for you if you'd like.
I don't like to read it. I don't need it. I don't need to hear it.
You don't?
No, I don't.
Why
It's done. I don't need.
why-
If you like to read it, go ahead, Mr. Council President, but I don't need to hear it.
Why confuse the issue with facts?
Well, if you want to read the statement, go ahead.
No, I'm looking, right now, I'm looking for the comments from Mrs. Rinker regarding, oh my God, here we are.
Well, while you're looking for that, let me continue.
No, it's quite all right.
Okay. Should I?
No,
Excuse me?
no.
All right.
Council President, is it all right? The mayor continues.
Go ahead. I'll find it and I'll interrupt you.
Okay. Through negotiation with the owners of the Baldwin property, the town agreed to purchase this property for a price of $289,000. That's a price that's 1% below the lowest appraised amount and 5% below the highest appraised amount. In February of 2021, the council passed an ordinance granting me as mayor approval to purchase this Baldwin property. This purchase was continued upon the following two conditions. One, a confirmation of the owner's clear title to this property, and two, a clear environmental assessment of the property. Among the several positive reasons that the mayor and the council made the decision to purchase this Baldwin property were the facts, and this kind of addresses the question that you asked, Mr. Council President. The town's purchase of this property would not cause the town to lose any meaningful amount of tax revenue because the property is farmland assessed as pasture. And therefore, they paid property taxes of just $45.09 in 2019, $28.17 in 2020, and $28.29 in 2021. This property is not likely to be used for commercial use or built on, mainly because it's not in the town's full service area. And the DEP has ruled out it ever been included in the town sewer service area because they view it to be a crossing for a protected species, very specifically the bobcat. And the other reason that we purchased this is the very reasonable $289,000 purchase price for this Baldwin property. It will not come from current taxpayers fund, but has been approved by the council to be sourced from the Municipal Open Space Fund that currently contains $600,000.
Before we move on, September 1st, 2020. And this is to the assembled council, including Mrs. Murphy, who was no longer on the council, but Mr. Shortway, Ms. Weller, Mr. Pitsker, and Mr. Auberger. And I'm not going to read the whole letter because it's kind of lengthy, but it says, The appraisal also states the value to be of this property, $475,000 as of August 1, 2018. A current appraisal may place the value even higher. In light of the property use of nearly $500,000 of Vernon taxpayers' open space funds to purchase this property, this to satisfy a segment of trail for recreation should be reconsidered. Furthermore, Vernon cannot afford the loss of an 11+ acre commercially zoned property with access to sewer service. These are the very properties needed to be developed to lessen the tax burden on Vernon residents and to gain an undetermined amount of EDUs of sewer usage to lessen the burden on our current sewer users. Regarding the potential trail, Mr. Burrell has reported that he is in discussion with another landowner for an easement, which would suffice, making the purchase of the Black Creek Drive unnecessary for the trail. For these reasons stated, there are a couple of other paragraphs of just incidental comments. These reasons stated, the members of the EDAC, in our capacity as an advisory group, to foster economic development for Vernon, advise that the mayor and council cease to proceed with the purchase of 820 Black Creek Drive and allow it to remain in its current established use as a commercially developable property with sewer access in the town center zone. Respectfully, Sally Rinker, Chair, Ms. Vice Chair, Ms. Lubliner, Elmer Platts, Ed DeYoung, Ron Williams, and John Perry. So I bring this to your attention because it seems that you've placed great stock in your advisory committees, and I just thought the public should also hear about this letter from them. You may proceed.
If you'd like to have copies of the appraisals, and if you'd like to have copies of the tax statement showing the actual value amount, I have no problem sharing that with you and the council.
Thank you.
Okay. The Sussex County Open Space Committee.
Excuse me, Mr. President, Mr. Mayor, can I just add something right there, please?
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
I'm sorry. Yes, you can
I
interrupt
just,
my
because
time.
it might help clarify. That original appraisal is based on 11 acres and the lot is actually 7 acres. That's all I wanted to add. So they
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay. That's actually true. But the Sussex County Open Space Committee thought so highly of Vernon's decision to use this Baldwin property for this community benefit that they actually provided Vernon a $75,000 grant to be used to purchase this property. Now, what this means is that we will be actually using only $214,000 of the $600,000 out of municipal open space fund to actually purchase this property. That's the question for Mr. Council President. Your question was, this question relates to the usability of the Baldwin property for the town to construct a portion of the town center walking and biking trail. Since the property is classified by the New Jersey Landscape Project as being a rank 4 habitat property. And it's classified as a rank 4 habitat property because it is a crossing for a protected species, that being the bobcat. The rank 4 habitat property, they're ranking by the New Jersey Landscape Project, does not automatically prohibit any construction on this property. State law says that if a portion of land within a rank 4 habitat classified property is not regulated under the New Jersey DEP land use regulations, no other specific restrictions are imposed on that land. And that development is allowed to occur without the requirement or request or to gain approval from the New Jersey DEP. Since the Baldwin property has not been regulated by any New Jersey DEP land use regulations, there are no endangered species habitat development restrictions that would prevent any uses of this property that are planned by the town. So the mere fact that it's a rank 4 does not prevent us from using it. Question 5.
Excuse me, but it does require that you would make contact with DEP, doesn't it?
No,
It doesn't.
I know of no I know of nothing that says we need to make contact, Mr. Council President.
Well, I'm looking at a letter from Mr. Paul DeMuro,
Mm-hmm.
the Bureau of Environmental Analysis, Restoration and Standards. And he essentially says he's had no knowledge nor any discussion with the township directly related to this specific property.
Correct.
Right. I have never said, I have never stated to the public or any other person or entity that no development could occur on this property due to the potential. But he also, I believe, indicated that the property was part of an ES ranked, an environmentally sensitive area, ESA, and that normal approval by the DEP would be at least in the scope of communication. Please
Okay.
proceed.
Okay. Question 5. This question asks if it's the mayor or the council who has the legal authority to provide the organization who has been awarded the contract to construct the town center walking and biking trail with the official notice to proceed with the work directed by the contract. So is it the mayor or is it the council? A notice to proceed on a contract is simply an affirmative communication between the municipality and the organization which has already been awarded the contract by a majority vote of the council. The mayor, as the official spokesperson for the municipality, is the one with the legal authority to provide that notice to proceed.
Did you do so?
I plan to do so.
No, so you have not done it as of yet?
I have communicated that I would.
No. Did you advise the Salmon Brothers to, your engineer?
Yes.
To proceed with the project?
I have advised them to proceed with doing whatever they need to do to get this project going.
Okay.
Because I know that they're gonna.
Have you closed on the property yet?
No, we have not closed on the project.
Have you received any indication from the licensed remediators that the remediation has been completed or successly?
The remediators don't work for us, they work for the owners.
Understand.
But I have no doubt that we will close on this property before the February 22nd date in the contract.
Well, you may not have any doubt of it, but my question to you, I think it's probably in a later question, was what happens to the township if in fact you can't close on that date? And specifically, are we liable for damages because we were not able to fulfill the conditions of the contract? And furthermore, does the fact that we are not able to fulfill the contract place us at risk in terms of additional damages brought by the contractor for work that they couldn't permit or conduct while we were waiting to advise them to proceed?
Well, the answer to that is no. I know you've already received the clarification on that from a legal standpoint, and I'm assuming that you're asking these questions for public consumption.
No, I'm bringing it out because that seems to be the only way we can get information out. Prior to my being seated on the council, I went to a number of meetings, including a meeting here. And I asked very, very simply, could you please delay any movement on this project until after the new council was seated? And then when the bids were awarded, I asked that you please delay in the awarding of these bids until the new council was seated and could gain information about it. And then when they were opened for property that we don't own, I again asked if that could be delayed, but it wasn't. Now, right now, current legal advice is that there really isn't much that can be done because apparently there's no problem with awarding bids to a company to do something on property that you don't own. I just question what would happen if somebody came to my house or my residence and wanted to put in a swimming pool that I didn't order and started taking, awarding bids on it. It's a crazy situation, but please continue.
Yeah, I think your questions 6 and 7 kind of address that, Mr. Council President. These questions about the possibility that the municipality will not be able to complete the purchase of the Baldwin property. B, the possibility that the municipality will not be able to complete the purchase of the Baldwin property by the February 22nd date, which is listed in the already signed contingency contract. And C, if there are any listed penalties against the municipality in the contractual agreement signed by the company to construct the town center walking and biking trail, if the municipality has not purchased the property by the February 22nd date. I think that kind of sums up what you were just saying. At this point in time, the mayor's office has every reason to believe, and quite frankly, no reason to doubt, that the owners of the Baldwin property will complete the required cleanup of the small amount of lead contaminated soil, and that cleanup will receive DEP approval by or before the February 22nd date listed in the already signed contingency contract. So we will get the land.
Okay.
We also have no reason to believe that the contractor will not be able to start construction on the town center walking and biking trail by the April 1 start date that's listed in the contract, and complete the construction of the trail by the July 1, 2022 date also listed in the contract. Question 8, this is one of those what if hypothetical questions asking about the possibility that additional contamination may be found on the Baldwin property. I suppose that there's a possibility that contamination could be found on any property, almost any place. However, in fulfillment of the requirements of the Ordinance 2106, 2 extensive environmental studies were conducted on the Baldwin property. Both of these extensive environmental studies were conducted by the New Jersey DEP licensed site remediation firm, ADR Environmental, located in Branchville, New Jersey. ADR Environmental is owned and operated by Mr. Arthur Pearson and David Lott. Mr. Pearson has extensive experience in all phases of remediation, including the remediation of both soil and groundwater. He holds certifications and licenses from the New Jersey DEP, OSHA, and the National Environmental Health Association, and is a New Jersey certified public works contractor. His partner, Mr. Lott, has worked in the environmental field in the state of New Jersey since 1999 and has been a New Jersey DEP subsurface evaluator since 2003 and has been a licensed site remediation professional since 2012. Throughout the past 15 years, Mr. Lott has successfully closed more than 300 New Jersey DEP cases. Most reasonable individuals would agree with me and the council that authorized these 2 extensive environmental studies that we have ample reason to believe that all environmentally unacceptable soil that might exist on this Baldwin property has been found.
So you mean to say if we just randomly decided to do some test borings in various places within the property, you're pretty confident that there would be no problems?
I'm pretty confident of that because I'm not a licensed professional, but the licensed professionals say that, Mr. Council President, and I have confidence in them. Your question number 9. This question relates to the issue of any toxic waste that might exist on the town-owned property where the town center bicycle pump track is being built. As a result of repeated claims by a specific Vernon resident that there was toxic solid waste buried all over the specific piece of property owned by the town where the town center bicycle pump track is being built, the DEP chose to dig 10 test pits in 8 distinct different locations over the entire property. This was part of their efforts to confirm once and for all if there was not toxic solid waste buried on this property. After an analysis of the results from these 8 test pits, the DEP concluded that there was no solid waste, be it toxic or non-toxic, buried on this property. And the last question, question number 10. This question relates to the issue of the location of the town center bicycle pump track. There has been, and there continues to be, a group of Facebook warriors who have demanded that the mayor and council surrender to them the decision-making authority and the responsibility as to, number one, if the town should have a municipal bicycle pump track. Number two, if so, where the municipal bicycle pump track should be located. The mayor and council refuse to surrender our authority and responsibility to these Facebook warriors. I will continue to embrace and not yield the authority and responsibility granted me as mayor by our governmental charter. And I hope that the future council will join me in doing likewise.
Thank you. I draw your attention to the ordinance 2106. This is the ordinance that allowed for the purchase of the property itself.
Yes.
In section 1, the township is authorized to acquire lot 12, block 391, also known as 820 Black Creek Drive, from its owners for the sum of $289,000.
Correct.
Only after, 1, obtaining a clear phase 1 environmental assessment. Now, I don't believe you received a clear phase 1 environmental assessment because you went to a phase 2.
Right.
Okay, and then from phase 2, you not only went from that, you did an actual remediation.
No.
You didn't do a remediation. Well, I mean, you have the LSRP who is doing the remediation, correct?
No, we're not. The remediation has been done by the owner of the property.
Yes.
The owner of the property has an LSRP.
Right.
Doing that.
Okay,
Okay.
that's agreed. However, did you ever go back to the council to have the cost for these phase 1 and phase 2 remediations approved?
No, I did not. It was not required.
Why not?
It was not required.
There was no money involved. I mean, there was no money attached for a limitation on spending for the phase 1 study or the phase 2 study. You just went ahead and made an expenditure of township funds without having an approved purchase order from the township. From the council.
I acted in my authority, and that has been done. Yeah, I acted in my authority.
Well,
And if there's any evidence that I didn't, I'd like to see it.
Well, there's $12,260, I believe, that was spent without council approval.
Mr. Council President, I understand that, number one, you do not agree that we should have a pump track.
No, I never said that, sir.
Okay, I take, well,
I just think where it's being cited
okay,
and the way it's being done is totally unprofessional.
okay, all right.
And not businesslike.
Okay, I disagree with that. And you made your disagreements known. That's very clear. And I hear that and I accept that. And you've asked.
You still haven't responded to the question.
Well, which question?
Normally, when an expenditure is necessary for the town to do something, the issue is brought before the council for approval.
If you believe that I've acted in my, outside of my authority, then please provide me evidence that I've done so. Other than that, I think that you're absolutely incorrect.
Well, I mean, there's PO number 21-00634 for a phase 1 study for $2,500 passed on 5/17/21. There's PO 21-00673 for a phase 2 study. And both of these are paid to ADR Environmental.
Absolutely.
It was paid on $9,760 on June 16th, 21. Both of these issues were not, these expenses were not placed before the council.
There are plenty POs that's not placed before the council. The mayor has the authority within the budget to be able to spend funds, and I have not done anything that's outside of that. And again, if you have any evidence that I have, please share it with me.
So what you're saying that what you did was totally within the law?
Absolutely.
We can't go back on it right now, but I totally disagree.
Well, I
I
understand you.
think this is a very, very poor way of running a business.
Well, I understand you disagree. And you made that clear, you made that known. And we've had our opportunity for you to express that, and we've done that. So
Right.
now I'd like to think that we can move on to doing other things that we really need to do.
I think really need to do is to address something that should not have gotten this far.
Well, I think that you're doing your best to address that.
I agree.
So,
I think the fact that 5,000 people who voted for myself and Mr. Lynch and Mrs. Bucieri, and I being the lowest vote getter, were unhappy with the way things have been proceeding with this type of a project.
Well, that's the second or third time you've talked about this 5,000 people.
Right.
You know what? If you're a council person, you're a council person if you win by one vote or by
Right.
5,000 votes. I remember when Mr. George Bush was elected president, that election actually went to the Supreme Court.
That's right.
But after the Supreme Court made that ruling, Mr. Bush had as much authority as any other president. So to simply try to talk about that, I understand what your position is.
No, the point I'm making.
I know what it is.
No, the point I'm making is that the people in this community are not totally behind this project, sir.
I know that people are not totally behind anything. For you to believe that people are totally
acrimony,
believe that people are totally behind you, I think that you're misinformed.
No, I
think that you're absolutely misinformed.
I think
you're misinformed.
Regarding this,
Why don't you guys try to run this thing as right?
you're out of order, please. You're out of order.
Please.
They are discussing it.
I think the degree of acrimony that's being seen on this particular project is substantial, and you just can't disregard.
I see the acrimony on your part, Mr. Council President. So that's what I see. So if you
I'd like to say something if you don't.
if you want to continue this, continue it. But I've answered your question, and I don't really plan to participate in this kind of back and forth. It's ugly. It doesn't present positive for our town. And I don't think it's not going to change anything. It's not going to change any decision that has been made. It might change future decision, but it's not going to change any decision that has been made.
Mr. Lynch?
I've been accused of not being in favor of a pump track, and I've never said that I did not want a pump track. Never said it. I did say that we could find a better place for it in Vernon Township than we did down there. That is my opinion. And ever since June, I've been hearing nothing but other council members deciding to use the social media as their platform to berate me and the other council members just because of our difference of opinion.
Does it have anything to do with me?
No, and
Okay.
And this is a general statement, Mayor.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
I never would say that you said anything wrong to me.
Okay.
Okay. Now, after listening to the past 3 months, everything about this pump track, it seems that there are more questions that come up every day. Now, the one question I have is in the contract for the RFP, it states that this company that is going to do this needs to have completed 3 pump tracks. And now we're finding out that it doesn't matter. This is typical Vernon. This is typical Vernon. This is typical like what happened back when we had the town center go up and we spent $30 million and we're still paying for it. Now, if we can't get the paperwork right in making this happen, whether it be with the LSRPs, whether it be with the DEP, whether it be with the people that are going to be doing the work, we need to be right about this. We're spending your money. We're spending taxpayer dollars on something. And we have the mess of a sewer in town that we have to try to provide money and try to provide customers for. So that gets straightened out. We have a town center that we spent $30 million on that a person went to jail over. Listen, this is not a discussion with the public. This is my turn to say something. This is not a discussion. But I am telling you that if you're not going to do the paperwork right, moving forward, we are the guard of doing things right now. Mike Fury.
You're out of order.
Harry Shortway, Natalie Bushieri, Pat Rizzuto, and myself are being tasked with asking the questions. And the questions we have are not being answered. Now, the mayor did answer these questions. Still don't know why we went with Spawn Ranch, although they've never completed a pump track. That's all I got to say right now. I'm sick and tired of being berated for having the ability to come up here and state my opinion, and then council members go out on Facebook and start telling everybody what their opinion is. Come to the meeting.
Councilmember, I don't berate you. In fact, I have great respect for you, Mr. Lynch.
Thank you.
I don't berate you. So
I know that, and I never ever made that comment that you did.
Okay.
And I would be surprised if you did.
Tell me, how much is this project going to cost? Total cost? Mr. Mayor?
What project are you talking about?
Talking about the pump track and the bike path.
Oh, that's a question probably, if I gave an answer, it would probably be inaccurate because I may have guesstimate, but I can get you some kind of estimate on that. You know, and you know, I can tell you what we're going to, what we want to pay in the contracts, but you know, because of the fact that, you know, there's so many catch-22s. Mr. Council President, if I said $200,000 and it costs 205, you know, I'm going to be berated by that. So
But
I can't give you an answer at this time.
I'm looking at a presentation that was done by previous council where the total cost of the project, and I'm talking the bike path, the parking lots, the amphitheater, and the pump track, costing in excess of almost $1.2 million. And the breakdown on financing on this is kind of, I think, nebulous.
We have roads in this town that need to be fixed. We have a street up in Barry Lakes called Karen Road where you could use it as a hockey rink. It's getting so big up there. We have other roads that need to be fixed in this town. We need to make sure that our infrastructure is going to last. Spending $1 million on something that somebody could ride their bike on, and it's going to be 100 people who are going to come to do this. It's not going to be hundreds of thousands. And I bet you that they're all going to be from another town. It's good if they want to ride their bike here and go home.
Excuse me, you're out of order. I'll not address this again.
I'm sorry.
It's quite all right, Mr. Lynch. You know, I'm looking here on how, you know, on the financing of this particular project, and it's broken down quite clearly. You know, it's down payment and what you're taking from from the open space funds by virtue of an ordinance, and the property, and what you're getting from the Sussex County Fund grant, and how much you're getting from the Vernon Open Space Fund. But it still relies upon $580,000 in public bonding. What happens if you don't get the bonding? Mr. Mayor?
You know what, I don't, the documents you're talking about, I don't have any answers to that. I mean, Mr. Rizzuto, this is kind of catch-22. I've given you my responses to the questions. If you want to say you disagree with what I've said, what we've done, that you don't think it's right, you don't think, I understand that. Say that and let's go on.
No, on the contrary.
Let's go on. I don't have any comments.
No, you can't say that because you, along with members of the previous council, have been espousing this project. And yet when I ask you about the financing and ask you in the critical part of it, which is basically almost 50%, is to come from public funding via a bond issue, you're telling me that you want to move on. I don't see that as an adequate answer to a question to me when you have hundreds of people, thousands of people in this community complaining about rising taxes and spending too much money.
Well, one of the things about any bond are there's no bonds that I have proposed and there's not been proposed yet. And if any bonds are proposed as the council, you can block them.
Then what happens to a project that's half completed?
I don't know anything about a project that has completed, Mr. Rizzuto. I mean, I really don't. I'm not so sure where this is going, but
I think it's going to show that it's been poorly planned. I think at this point that there are still so many unanswered questions that I really can't wrap my arms around this. And I think as a way of bringing this to the attention of the people, that the only thing I can think of, it may fail or it may not, but I'm going to entertain a motion for an ordinance to reconsider the previous ordinance 2106 and have it stricken and place this total project on hold before we go so far down the road that the damages to the township are that substantial. At this point, I don't believe there's been substantial amount of work done. We haven't conveyed title. We have not received title to the property, nor have we begun construction on the bike path with the company that was awarded the bids. So if a member of the council would like to entertain, offer up a request for an ordinance, I'd be glad to entertain it.
Is 2106 just the purchase of the Baldwin property? or
Exactly.
Can we ask Mr. Zelinski's advice?
I don't think it's appropriate to bring an ordinance up from the floor. I think that if the council would like an ordinance to be introduced, that it be prepared for introduction at the next meeting.
Yes, for introduction at the next meeting.
I think that's fine.
And what about I don't know if this is appropriate to discuss now, so you can let me know. What about the legal implications with the contract that we have for the owners of the Baldwin property?
I've been asked to provide a legal memorandum regarding some liability issues. I have provided a legal memorandum. That memorandum provides attorney-client communications as well as legal advice. I don't think it's appropriate to discuss that in public session right now.
I got it. Yeah, I just was curious if it would be appropriate to discuss now or not. Okay, thank you. Thank you for answering.
May I have a motion for an ordinance to be presented at the next meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Mr. Lynch for a ordinance to reverse 2106.
I'll second it.
Second by Mrs. Bucieri. Roll call vote.
I'm just writing Vice President Bucieri,
Yes.
Councilmember Fury,
No.
Councilmember Lynch,
Yes.
Councilmember Shortway,
No.
Council President Rizzuto.
Yes,
He carries.
thank you. We will have this at the next meeting. Okay.
Yes.
And Mr. Zelinski, you'll work with the clerk on that?
Yes.
Thank you.
I believe there is a second presentation for the Municipal Utilities Authority Water Project.
I don't see it.
Mr. Fury?
Want me to take that,
Yes,
Council
please.
President?
Yes.
All right. So as everyone knows, I was a member of the MUA for approximately 2 years. Early last year, we started examining the possibility of bringing water supply to the town center to complete what we call phase 3. Phase 1 and phase 2 were already completed. Phase 3 would allow to bring more water supply to town center to help with the development of the local town center economy and attract new businesses. Just to give you a simple overview of the project, most of the water mains go past CVS, and they also are underground on Main Street. The one on Main Street is still considered a dry main, while the CVS one that goes almost to Route 94 and stops just prior to 94 is a in service and supplies CVS, and the rest of it comes down to the municipal building. So when the American Rescue Plan came out, and some of the possibilities of utilizing that money, one of them is to upgrade water and wastewater infrastructure. The township midway last year, after that was the number came down from the federal government or the state government, it was we got Vernon Township got approximately $2.2 million. And they passed an ordinance. I don't know what the name of the number of the ordinance was. $1.7 million was to be utilized to upgrade the water and system, and in some cases the sewer system all along into town center. So the project that's being considered, the water project, it was broken down into 2 phases. And the reason why it was broken down into 2 phases because of the paving. If everyone knows that the paving of Route 515 was going on by the county, we worked with very closely with the county, thanks to Chuck Volker and the mayor, to come down a certain distance and allow us to complete this project. So the water main is basically going to go from just near the Daily Bean all the way down 515, connect to the main on Main Street, and then come down to Route 94.
Excuse me. Can we turn the phone off, please? Thank you.
Thank you.
Please proceed. Sorry for the interruption, Mike.
That's all right. So basically, phase 1 is the main is the main going down Route 515, and so we tried to expedite that entire project. We hired Dewberry, who's overseeing the project, and those bid specifications have been completed. We're hoping that this is going to go out to bid by mid-February, awarded by the end of February, and then hopefully do the construction when the weather breaks. And then that would be closely coordinated with the remaining paving project that's going to complete the Route 515. So that leaves a little bit of an area that you need to connect from 515 to 94. Route 94 is a state road, and there's a moratorium on paving, so we're going to have to request a permit to connect.
Excuse me, Mike, have all the businesses and related domiciles been connected to the sewer that are on that track?
Not all of them. There's a few properties that haven't been connected, but most of them have been connected onto the sewer.
Yeah, is there a reason for the not being connected?
I believe there may be one property that has some engineering issues to get connected
Okay.
into. I'm not sure which that property that it is, but
I have a
that's for
question,
sewer
too.
only.
Okay.
So the
Excuse
next.
me, Mr. Lynch has.
Mike, just a second. This is Brian. I have a question.
Sure.
Is the DNS mall able to hook up?
I'm sorry, who?
The DNS mall?
That's a dry main right now that they would
Yeah,
actually
that's what
probably.
okay.
Yeah, they would probably be able to connect if that water main was charged with water. But it's right now, it's a dry main.
Right, okay.
So there is a connection for DNS mall if they wanted to proceed with water
So
supply.
if any new building decides to go in there, they're going to need to hook up.
Correct, and that's a big reason why we're bringing water supply to there. Now, let me correct it. The main is there. Where the
Right.
issue is whether the water supply that we can get from Suez, which is now Veolia, whether they have the pumping capability, and we also have the ability to get it to town center and maintain fire flow in that area. So those are some of the questions that Suez is looking at, because that leads me to the second phase, which is looking at getting the water from the wells that are located at Mountain Creek South over the mountain to a pump station. We have to build a pump station, and then we also have to possibly upgrade those wells where the water is coming from. So the main is there. Is the water supply is the other issue. So we have to. So we have been in constant talks with Suez, because they have the ability and the allocation to supply the water. The township is going to have to make some kind of agreement with them, and they already have an agreement, is to supply the remaining water. So there's a little bit of work that needs to be done in order to supply them, because they have to maintain fire flows. There's all kinds of fire protection issues and water pressure and water quality issues. So that leads to the second part. So that would be considered the second phase of the project. So we are pretty we're ahead of the schedule. And just keep in mind that this is not an MUA project. Although the MUA is involved, it's being overseen. We had to hire Dewberry as an engineer to oversee this project and bring it to its completion. So that's pretty much the update on the water project. So the expectation, if I had to guess, sometime in April. I don't know how the length of time it's going to take to put a main in there. There's going to be there's some traffic control issues that we have to maintain traffic on 515. It is going to be a pretty substantial project. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done to make that happen. So I think it's a good thing. We're taking advantage of some of the funding that's available from the federal and state government. I was on a seminar today for the iBank, and New Jersey alone is, over the next 5 years, is going to be receiving approximately $1 billion for water and wastewater infrastructure projects. And the iBank was strongly encouraging all the municipalities to take advantage of those. In some cases, low interest loans. In some cases, the debt forgiveness is pretty high. So that leads us to the update on the MUA. And
Excuse me, Mike, Mr. Fury, regarding your comments just then, are you looking at grant applications, or is it something that is going to be given equally to municipalities throughout the state, or what?
The funding is, they have formulas and ratios depending on how the township is classified and how they look at the state. They look at average incomes. They look at communities that are disadvantaged. I would highly doubt that Vernon Township would qualify for some of those. Those very they don't like to call them grants. They call them loans that are debt forgiven.
Okay.
So the money is there. we are accessing it right now with the pump station, the pump station 2. And it's a possibility we can access it down the road if we aggressively go after that money. But it does take a lot of effort. There's a lot of effort that has to, you have to take under. It's to get that money, but it is available. So.
Thank you.
So
You can please continue.
All right. So the other talking points I wanted to talk about, and I know Harry is very familiar with this. We've been talking about this for years, and the reasons why we're trying to address the MUA. And the MUA has some serious issues, and namely with Resolution 13-202, where 13-202 for the MUA raised the minimum amount of wastewater being pumped down to SCUMA from 265,000 to 461,000. The average flow that we see on a daily basis is about 210,000 gallons a day. That resolution set a minimum charge, and I wanted to stress this is a service contract charge. This has nothing to do with the bond payments. It is only to cover the ability for SCUMA to operate that wastewater treatment plant. Now, I know Natalie has been down to the plant. I really think it's a great idea that you go down there and get a tour of the facility to understand how we spent our money and what the whole system is about, and to get a better understanding of what we're up against. So one of the things that happened with that resolution was it ended up, and this is and thankfully was discovered by Donnell Bright. And we have proceeded with this, and this is what has turned into what we know now is a lawsuit against SCUMA. So this is a pretty critical lawsuit, and we don't understand the reasons why this resolution was passed, but it had a substantial impact on the financial ability for the MUA to sustain that debt. Now, we've all heard about the debt. It's going to go up from $1 million a year to $1.5 million a year in 2023, and Vernon Township is faced with that debt that's coming down. The council and the MUA worked great together to push this lawsuit forward. I'd like to hear, I like to hear from Harry or any other council members their feelings on this, because we hope to continue this. And and if we don't, I think it'll have a detrimental impact on the MUA's ability to meet its debt obligations.
I would just counsel any council members from speaking publicly about pending litigation right now.
Okay, thanks, Josh. I appreciate that. All right, so the other item I wanted to mention was about the sewer service area. And the sewer service area is something that's been worked on by the MUA for years, and it continues to work on it. And what the ultimate goal is, and we really need to keep this in mind, we need to focus on bringing more users to the MUA. By bringing more users to the MUA, we'll make this MUA sustainable. The alternative is, if we cannot meet these debt obligations, there's a possibility in the next couple of years that the MUA will go bankrupt, and that entire debt will go back onto the township, and the township, all of us will be responsible, no matter if you're on the sewer system or not, to pay for those debts. So what I'm here to talk about and to ask is, I'd like to hear from the other council members, what their view on the MUA is. Do they have ideas? I know you've gathered a lot of information, but I'd like to hear some feedback from other council members.
Well, I think the meeting that is scheduled for next month provides us with a great opportunity to speak with the members of the MUA and to develop our thoughts at that particular meeting. So I don't disagree with you. But there are any number of other questions which probably need to be addressed as well. And I think a meeting between the MUA and the council, which is part of their requirement. I believe we're expecting a written report from the MUA which is part of the requirements when they were given their authorization. They're growing up papers, so to speak, as well as a annual meeting in person where members could express their thoughts and council could question them on various issues. So why don't we hold that until then?
Yeah, I know. I appreciate that. I think it's a good idea. And I hope we can continue to have those meetings with the MUA. I know Mayor Burrell knows it's been very, the MUA is, the current MUA has been doing a great job of working together with the township to work on this together to come up with a resolution. But it's not just the MUA. Just remember, keep in mind, the MUA is the operations entity that runs it. The township still owns the debt and they're responsible for the ultimate.
Well, it may backstop the debt, but the MUA is still an autonomous body. It was developed that way.
It's unique in that way, but they do not own the assets. The township still owns the assets and they control the assets. But just the bottom line is we want to work together with the MUA. They're a good bunch. They're you got a very talented group on there. I have a lot of faith in the chairman, Mr. Carney. He has 35 years of water and wastewater experience. And there's other people on there that have a lot of experience. I think it's that we need to come together and work together on a plan. So I'd like to hear from what other, I know Natalie has done her homework. She's gone down and saw the SCUMA, the wastewater plan. I think that's
so have I,
something we need to do.
So have I, and I believe Mr. Lynch has also, and also Mr. Wetzel, God bless his soul. We both went down there and met with John Drake and the engineers down there, and they gave us a run through. And they gave us also a background, which I don't want to, expand this meeting even further. So we'll not go for another time. But there is a reason why a lot of this stuff is taking place. So.
All right, yeah, Council, I think it's good if you do communicate directly to the chair of the MUA and reach out to him and email him and ask him for a report or do a presentation. I think that would be appropriate. So he knows where it's coming from.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Council President.
Yes.
I asked our engineer Stoner to come because you asked me to. Do you have any questions, Sam? Because we're paying him while he's here.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions regarding it? He just got a free night to the fireworks. That's all. But, nothing new. But I do have a couple of questions. One, Black Creek Drive opens up onto Route 94. Will that require any type of traffic study via the state DOT?
It's not required a traffic study just for the pump track itself. I think there was a comment before about the number of vehicles. That's a big issue. If we get to the point where we would upgrade Black Creek Drive, you definitely get into a road opening permit and a study would come with that.
Okay.
Being that it's not opening out on 94 and it's not a major generator in traffic, no, you're not going to trigger it.
So, go ahead.
But if upgrades were done to Black Creek Drive, it would require a traffic study.
But it would require a road opening permit. And during that, they'll ask for the number of vehicles that are coming in and out of the Black Creek Drive itself. But you're going to be changing the whole geometry of the intersection if you did some major improvements to that.
Black Creek, which I think is part of the project.
That was part of the.
That was part of the project. So.
Dollar amount that Pat read off at one point, that was part of that.
Okay, thank you.
Refresh my memory, that road that's right next to the DNS Mall, that leads down towards, say, Webb.
Yes.
What is the name of that road again?
Black Creek Drive.
That's Black Creek Drive.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about.
How were they? No, you were right. You were refreshing everybody's memory. That's why. And I was just pointing it out. So.
Oh, okay.
Just so you know, I would like to see how you're going to plow that in the winter.
Black Creek Drive.
Yeah.
How do they do it now?
It's not a town road, so you have to plow uphill. And then when you get to the peak of the hill, your plow is 3 feet, 4 feet in the air and it's not touching any snow.
Didn't say it didn't need upgrades.
Okay.
Or the overall concept of the plan.
And to go,
Had improvements go to the roadway, and that was part of it.
and to go down the road, it's gonna, there's gonna be a,
Upgrades.
yeah. So we don't need to have a traffic study done where there's gonna be a light there or something.
You're not gonna have the warrants for the light. When you get into warrants for a traffic signal, or warrants for a left turn lane, warrants for that, it goes into the number of vehicles on the main line, the number of vehicles coming out the side street. The traffic study can be done, but it's not gonna have it. I'm very comfortable. It's not gonna have those type of warrants. We'll have warrants for geometric, it's wise, it's smart, it's advisable to improve the geometrics of the road.
It's interesting. I've waited at that mall, coming out from the pizza place or the Chinese restaurant, and as much as 5-10 minutes sometimes for traffic to clear, unless you want to really jump it. It seems to me that it's not going to get any easier. It's going to make it much more difficult. And secondly, I mean, the degree of incline on that road, it's substantial. I don't know. Are you going to build a series of switchbacks to make it work? No, obviously not. I mean, how do we do it?
There's other improvements you can make. You'd have to raise the roadway up, at the intersection itself, so you're not at a steep grade like Brian's referring to. You have the parking spaces along the commercial properties. They all have to work into this plan. There's an option. You can move the driveway over to the south if you wanted to.
And
there's a number of items, and that was in that original estimate. Right now, for the goal for this directed is right now for the pump track itself and the bike trail. Then go into the next step because we are ready to go into the next step of design.
So $225,000 is enough to upgrade that road?
For the intersection, yes, not a traffic signal for you, but a traffic signal, things of that nature.
Including the slope adjustment?
So,
If I can just add something, did I hear Black Creek Drive is private? No, we own it. We're plowing it now so they can get down to the pump station.
Yeah.
Am I not correct on that?
Yeah, no, you are correct. That's the access to the pump station number 1 for the MUA. So that's plowed constantly so they can get access to that pump station.
I was never aware it was.
I thought somebody said it was private, but I'm sure it's public roadway.
Not true.
Thank you, Corey.
Thanks.
No, that's all the questions that I have.
Thanks, Corey. You can go home now. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
Thanks, Corey.
Okay, may I have them, let's see,
Do minutes.
minutes. May I have a motion for approve the minutes of the meeting of November 22nd?
Motion.
Motion is made by Mrs. Bucieri. Is there a second? Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Mike.
Mr. Fury?
Yeah, Mr. Fury, I
Okay.
second it.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to approve the minutes of November 22nd?
I'm sorry, Council President. These minutes are from.
November 22nd.
Yeah,
And
last.
I
year.
can't vote.
Right.
Neither can Brian.
Neither can I. Yeah.
Nor can I,
Right.
so
Okay,
they'll have to be a majority of 2.
yep.
Do you call the roll, please?
You want a motion, Mr. President, on November 22nd?
Yes, it's already been made, just.
We have it.
You
I
can do
make a
it.
motion. I just can't vote on it, right?
No, the motion should be made by Mr. Shortway or
Right.
Mr. Fury.
Okay.
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry.
I'll make a motion.
Second,
Second. Roll call vote, please.
Vice President Bucieri,
Abstain.
Councilmember Fury,
Yes.
Councilmember Lynch,
I abstain.
Councilmember Shortway,
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto.
Abstain.
Motion carries.
And for the regular meeting of December 13th, 2021. May I have a motion from?
I'll make a
members of the
motion.
Council? who
I'll
are
make
here
a
at the
motion.
time?
I'll
Sorry,
second that motion.
made by Mr. Fury, seconded by Mr. Shortway. Roll call vote, please.
Vice President Bucieri,
Abstain.
Councilmember Fury,
Yes.
Councilmember Lynch,
Yeah, abstain.
Councilmember Shortway,
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto.
Abstain.
Motion carries.
For the meeting of January 1, 2022, the reorganization meeting. May I have a motion from the floor to approve those minutes?
Motion.
Motion made by Mrs. Bucieri. Is there a second?
I'll make that motion. I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Lynch. Roll call, please.
Vice President Bucieri,
Yes.
Councilmember Fury,
Yes.
Member Lynch,
Yes.
Councilmember Shortway,
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto.
Yes.
Motion carries.
For the consent agenda, we will move into the agenda for resolution 22-48 through 22-56. Will anybody have any question about any of these issues? We can pull them out.
I'd like to make a comment on one of the resolutions.
Certainly.
So I don't know if you want to pull it out just for my comment.
Go ahead.
Okay, 2248, I'd like to comment on.
All right. Okay. May I have a motion to place these resolutions on the floor?
I'll make a motion.
Motion made by Mr. Shortway. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Mr. Lynch. Item 2248. You wanted to comment on that, Mrs. Bucieri?
Yes, so this is a resolution from the Governor's Council on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse, a fiscal grant for cycle year 2023. So I'd just like to quickly summarize this resolution. I think it's kind of pertinent because we were talking about youth use of drugs and alcohol, and this resolution happens to be on this agenda. So this council, I believe, supports limiting and trying to prevent youth drug use. Whereas the Governor's Council on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse established the municipal alliances for the prevention of alcoholism and drug abuse in 1989 to educate and engage residents, local government and law enforcement officials, schools, nonprofit organizations, the faith community, parents, youth, and other allies in efforts to prevent alcoholism and drug abuse in communities throughout New Jersey. Whereas the Township Council of the Township of Vernon, County of Sussex, State of New Jersey, recognizes that the abuse of alcohol and drugs is a serious problem in our society amongst persons of all ages, and therefore has an established municipal alliance committee. And whereas the Township Council further recognizes that it is incumbent upon not only public officials, but upon the entire community to take action to prevent such abuses in our community. And whereas the Township Council has applied for the funding to the Governor's Council on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse through the County of Sussex. Now therefore be it resolved that the Township of Vernon, County of Sussex, State of New Jersey, hereby recognizes the following. The Township Council does hereby authorize submission of a revised strategic plan for the municipal alliance grant for fiscal year 2023 in the amount of, and it details the amounts. So I thank you for letting me read that. And I just want to reiterate that our council does care about youth drug use and drug abuse. And I think that's really important to highlight, especially the discussion that we're having and where we might be placing or allowing retail sales of marijuana in our town. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There being any other comments? Not, I'll ask for a roll call vote.
Vice President Bucieri,
Yes.
Councilmember Fury,
Yes.
Councilmember Lynch,
Yes.
Councilmember Shortway,
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Number 12, the introduction, first reading of the proposed ordinances. Ordinance 22-01, an ordinance of the Township of Vernon, County of Sussex, State of New Jersey, amending and supplementing Chapter 330 entitled Land Development regarding retail sales of legalized cannabis. May I have a motion to introduce this ordinance 22-01?
I'll make that motion.
Motion is made by Mr. Lynch. Is there a second to this ordinance? Is there a second? If not, I'll second the motion. Understand that this is a motion to just place the item, the issue on the floor for discussion at the next meeting. In no way creates any allegiance to the ordinance by any member of the council. It simply puts it up for discussion. So may I have a roll call vote, please?
Sure. Vice President Bucieri,
No.
Councilmember Fury,
Yes.
Councilmember Lynch,
Yes.
Councilmember Shortway,
No.
Council President Rizzuto.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Ordinance 22-02, ordinance of the Township of Vernon, County of Sussex, State of New Jersey, approving deed to terminate rights of way and easements on Block 5, Lot 14, formerly known as Block 20, Lot 29. May I have this?
Mr. Council President, can I make one clarification?
Certainly.
This ordinance was prepared at the end of 2021. The deed has the date of 2021 in it. It will need to be updated to 2022.
Can we pass it, move?
We can
on this?
move it. We can introduce it with the amendment to the ordinance that
Okay.
the deed be updated to the current calendar year.
Okay. With that stipulation, may I have a motion to adopt the ordinance?
I'll make a motion.
Motion made by Mr. Shortway. Is there a second?
No, it's Mr.
Second.
Fury.
I'm sorry, Mr. Fury. Thank you. Somebody's got to learn to speak with a higher voice.
I'll
And
second it.
seconded by Mrs. Bucieri. Roll call vote, please.
Vice President Bucieri,
Yes.
Councilmember Fury,
Yes.
Councilmember Lynch,
Yes.
Councilmember Shortway,
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Ordinance 22-03, an ordinance providing for the vacation of a public right-of-way known as West Shore Drive pursuant to NJSA 40:49-6, New Jersey statutes 40:67-2 and NJSA 40:67-21, and releasing and extinguishing any public right therein. May I have this in the form of a motion placed on the floor?
I'll make a motion.
Motion made by Mr.
Fury.
Fury. Is there a second? I'll second it. Is there any questions or comments on this? No. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Vice President Bucieri,
Yes.
Councilmember Fury,
Yes.
Member Lynch,
Yes.
Councilmember Shortway,
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto.
Yes.
Motion carries.
That completes the business. May I have a motion to open the
Motion.
meeting to the questions from the floor? Motion made by Mr. Lynch. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Bucieri. The public is able to speak for 5 minutes on any topic, whether it be on the agenda or not. Anybody from the floor wish to address the council?
Evening, my name is Zoe. I live in Green Valley Condos. Before I begin with what I came here tonight to speak about, I just want to say with no malice whatsoever that I would really appreciate if this council stopped talking about the former council and just do what you guys want to do. You have a majority vote. Just do what you're elected to do. I think it would save everyone a lot of time and aggravation.
Thank you.
So what I wanted to say originally before this meeting, I wanted to read into the record Resolution 19-172, resolution condemning hate and supporting diversity in the township of Vernon. Excuse me, if I read off my phone, it's very small. Whereas the Declaration of Independence defined America as a covenant based on equality, the unalienable rights of liberty and the pursuit of happiness, and government by the consent of the people. And whereas the First Amendment to the Constitution established the United States as a country committed to the principles of tolerance and religious freedom, and the 14th Amendment to the Constitution established equal protection of laws as the hearts of justice in the United States, and whereas adherence to these principles is vital to the progress of the American people and the diverse communities and religious groups of the United States, and whereas whether the political right, center, or left, bigotry, discrimination, oppression, racism, and impugnations of dual loyalty threaten American democracy and have no place in American political discourse, and whereas in the past several years, violent crimes, threats of violence, and other incidents of hate-motivated targeting of religious, racial, and ethnic minorities have increased across the United States. And whereas the Township of Vernon is committed to fostering an inclusive and hate-free environment, now therefore be it resolved by the Council of Vernon Township that hate has no place in the Township of Vernon, and all people are welcome in the Township of Vernon regardless of race, religion, or orientation. Personally, I believe that elected officials should always be held to a higher standard. And I personally believe that we should all hold each other to a higher standard. Just because you are allowed to say something because it is free speech does not mean it is appropriate, nor should you, even if it is to be intimidating to someone you rival politically, to be mean, or as a joke. And I personally hope that every person on this council knows about the company they keep and how they engage with the company they keep.
Thank you.
Oh, my goodness.
Mrs. Edwards?
Doreen Edwards, Highland Lakes. I can't tell you, my head is throbbing from this meeting tonight. I, for one, totally disagree with Zoe Heath as a taxpayer since 1985 living in this town. I like to see the back and forth. I want to know answers. How could a property be commercial property and not commercial property? How could it be free of lead and have lead? So no, and we have a town center that has no freaking water for how many years now? What is our town attorney doing for us? I mean, this is ridiculous. I'm going home and I'm calling my husband and telling him it might be time to think about packing our bags and leaving Vernon. I got an additional $200 tax bill that I really on the balls of my heels to pay now. I can't afford living here. I'm still in my starter home. Small 3-bedroom, 1-bath home. My brother in Lyndhurst pays the same amount of taxes. He gets all these services. And we get in Highland Lakes, I got to pay additional $1,200. That's on me because I wanted to live in a lake community, fine. We get half a year or how many months of snow plowing, which we have to fight the town to get the money for. I mean, it's BS. Vernon does things ass backwards. Excuse my French, but that's the case. I mean, I just can't believe some of the nonsense. With the reason, Mr. Burrell, that we chose a strong mayor government, the Faulkner Act, because I was involved in that, is for accountability. How could you not know the total figures for this pump station and everything included? That would be the number. If I'm in charge of a project, I will know what the total bill is going to be when I'm done. Now you're saying, well, it's going to invite people to come and use the pump station, but we don't have to worry about traffic. Which is it? Is it going to bring people in, or is it not going to bring people in? I mean, it can't be both ways. I'm just so blown away that we haven't learned a lesson in Vernon. We have not learned one single lesson, and I'm disgusted. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Edwards.
Yes.
Once again, Carl Contino in Lake Conway. I've been a resident of Vernon my entire life. I gladly voted for Mayor Burrell and he still has my support. And that doesn't mean I agree with him on everything, as I'm not necessarily on the same page as him with the pump track, but I know him to be a good man and a good leader. The Burrells were friends with my grandparents, and Mrs. Burrell was my math teacher in the 4th grade. We're a town of neighbors. We are people before anything else, regardless of whether we agree on everything. We show people the kindness and respect that they deserve. The mayor did not deserve to have an antiquated racial slur thrown at him by another leader in our town. The discord happening on social media is unacceptable and it's out of control. The post made by our town's Historical Society president is not just rude and inappropriate, but it goes against everything this town stands for. It follows a theme of too many Facebook groups, too many keyboard warriors, and too many online distractions from the real issues in Vernon, like high taxes and an empty Main Street. If you ask me, we spent far too much time discussing the pump track, and it's partly because it's a viral topic on social media. There are far more pressing issues to be addressed. It's clear from tonight's meeting that personality issues have permeated the council, as well as most aspects of our town's government. It's important that our town council remembers the impact of their words and that respect is always a two-way street. Our town is not a place for petty insults coming from behind screens or bullying of any kind. Let's take a stand for dignity, respect, and class, something that's often lacking in today's world. I hope our newly elected town council members can stand in unison with me in condemning these remarks, as well as the toxic rhetoric being spread on social media. I would also like to ask once again for a bit of elaboration on why Dr. Haley's appointment to the Land Use Board was not on the agenda. And I'll once again state that she would be a good fit and she has my backing. Thank you.
Thank you. That was well said, Carl.
Mr. Mayor, where do you live?
Where do I live?
Yes.
I'm right across the street from you.
Right. How long have we known each other?
Well, I've been here 42 years. We've known each other for those 42 years.
That's right. And I've been there for about 40, I guess about close to 50 years up there. And we've had our disagreements, but I mean, I think they all go right on the basis of, I disagree with the issue, not with you, okay? And for anybody to say that we don't get along, I don't think so. Because, you know, we've known each other too long, and I've gone over, I've plowed your driveway when my machine was working, and Reba's come over. So, I mean, to expect that our differences are personal is not really the case, and I think we both agree to that. Am I right?
Right.
Thank you, sir.
I liked what Carl had to say. I stand with you, Carl.
Thank you.
When you're done plowing his driveway, why don't you come over and do mine?
Because my machine is broken.
Hi there, me again. I'm speaking on behalf of myself, Tina Howie. I'm not representing the Center for Prevention and Counseling. I am a Sussex County resident, born and bred. Spent my winters skiing at the old Hidden Valley and now Mountain Creek, and spent a lot of time with my two young kids. I have a 5-year-old and a 10-year-old in the Vernon area. So while I live in Lafayette, Vernon has always been a place for my family, both family growing up with my mom and dad and family now with my own children. So I have a couple of questions. I get, those freebie newspapers. So the Strauss paper had put out an article last week regarding Healthy Times, and Healthy Times is also a store. I'm a stage 3C cancer survivor, 15 years, and my husband frequented Healthy Times.
Congratulations on your
Thank you.
achievement there. It's
And
you.
they helped us with all the aftercare. So I understand your business and your mission, and I'm very grateful for all that you bring to the Vernon community. So my two questions really is one, with the way the article was written, I was unsure if it was going to be just a cannabis store or if there were plans to have cannabis and the healthy foods that Healthy Times is. Just, I didn't know if it was clear. I know looking at the Cannabis Regulatory Commission guidelines that you can't have both. It has to be one or the other. And I didn't know if that was ever taken into consideration. The other piece is that I read it a couple of times, the $175,000 donation from the Shrine Group. And again, I'm not speaking on behalf of CFPC, I'm speaking on behalf as a community member. I wasn't really sure what that was. $175 being donated yearly to a community in support of changing zoning or in support of allowing cannabis shop to be here in the town. But besides what I think, I wasn't sure if you were aware of the Cannabis Commission regulatory FAQ sheets. I just wanted to bring your attention to the bottom of page 2, and you have this in your packets. It says a local government official shall not solicit from a cannabis business, and a cannabis business shall not offer anything of value in exchange for zoning approval, proof of local support, or written approval for such cannabis business. So I didn't know if the Vernon attorney had looked that over or not, but just something to be mindful of as you continue the discussions regarding if Healthy Times is the correct location for a cannabis market. The other thing, just to take in consideration, you got Dunkin' Donuts, not Dunkin' Donuts, you got, it's past my bedtime, I'm sorry. You've got Dairy Queen across the street, and you've got the batting cages across the street, both places where families congregate. And to me, that's more of a concern than the bike pump or the bike track down the road, because you have sports teams that frequent there, you have families that go there with their kids, after soccer, after baseball. So again, just things to be wanted to bring your attention to. Were you aware of this piece?
About the grant?
No, about the
$175.
yes, about the Cannabis Regulatory Commission not allowing that to happen.
I think apparently we take issue with it. I mean, I don't personally, but apparently there's a divergent thought on that. Perhaps the attorney would like to.
I'm just wondering, because the commission creates the guidelines and sets the protocol for business.
The township is aware of it. I provided my advice to the council on that issue, and I'll leave it at that.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, so Dan Siegel from Highland Lakes.
Danny Siegel.
We took up a lot of time last week or 2 weeks ago, so we're not going to go back over everything that we went through 2 weeks ago. I'd like to thank these ladies for coming tonight. There is some information that I think is maybe misinformation. I think it depends on what magazines or what articles or what research you want to read. I read an article about the state of Massachusetts, once it legalized cannabis, that the usage of cannabis from underage children went down. And so I believe that there's different information from different sources. You can believe what you want to believe. As a business owner in town for 32 years, we've donated money and time to the Vernon Coalition, Others Against Drunk Driving, drug awareness. We've raised 2 children in this town. Nobody would care more about the health and the well-being of kids in this town than us and the Shrine Group. And I would encourage every one of the council people and any resident to look at the Shrine Group and let experience and history show you what they do in every town that they go into. $175,000 a year is not a bribe. It's not a get out of jail free card. It's a way of integrating into a community.
And investing in our community and becoming responsible in the community.
When Amazon wants to come in or Ford wants to come in and build a plant, what do towns do? They throw tax breaks at them and they throw all kinds of perks at them and beg them to come into their town and it costs the taxpayers money. Here's a company that's coming into our town and wants to give the town money.
To invest in our town, in our families, to help our
To help
town
our
grow.
kids and our
And
families.
it's a minimum of 175 a year. But that's beyond the fact that the Shrine Group cares so much about the communities that they go into. This town deserves the gold standard. It really does. If you look at what they've done in other communities, you will see what can be done here as well. And done again, I said it last meeting, done correctly, done with safety, and concern for our minors.
I think that about covers
I
it.
hope that answered your question.
Oh, yes, I did want to bring up one more point.
Yeah, and you know, I'm not.
This is no.
This is a back and forth. The other thing I wanted to bring up was your comment about how.
Mr. Siegel,
Address
please
the-
address the council.
Sorry, this woman's comment.
Yeah, this isn't question and answer.
You're right.
Your moment.
But it's okay. The comment about how in Newton, they're not allowed to smoke outside. That's a state law. You cannot smoke marijuana on the street, any town. That's a law. The state law also requires no signs
Signage when this.
in the windows, no signs
When
on the outside.
legalization happens, there will be no signage.
Nobody will drive by that building and be able to tell from the outside what's going on. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's really nice.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Samjit Pant. I live at 112 Highland Lakes Road. I first wanted to add some relevant experience that I might have that's, I think, in keeping with this discussion. I was a four-year member of the Vernon High School ski team. I graduated in 2019, so I spent most evenings during the winter at Mountain Creek South. I know that was mentioned before as a concern of having a marijuana dispensary in proximity to Mountain Creek South. And I can say, quite frankly, and I think anybody who's been at Mountain Creek South can verify this, there is open marijuana use happening in Mountain Creek South and marijuana sale happening in Mountain Creek South. This was the case when I was in high school. This is the case today. So if the question is, how can we prevent marijuana sale and use in Mountain Creek South? That ship has sailed a long time ago. And I think there's no reason to penalize an honest business that's been an important part of the community since I believe 1989. I think there's no reason to penalize them under the pretext that we're protecting Mountain Creek South from the invasion of marijuana, but neither here nor there. I just wanted to add some relevant experience at that point. But more importantly, I wanted to add my support to the remarks of Mr. Contino and Ms. Heath, and I wanted to say that I commend the mayor's desire to develop the community in positive ways, and I think we've seen his commitment to those goals. And I wanted to point out for the record that the various keyboard warriors of Vernon aren't exactly the type to set foot on a bike anyway, bears mentioning. And finally, I wanted to ask members of the council to categorically condemn comments made by Ms. Palladini about Mr. Burrell on Facebook. Ms. Palladini is a known ally of several members on the board, and I think it's important to have it on the record that those members of the board who I know would not support those remarks categorically condemn them and make it known that such comments and such sentiments are not accepted in Vernon. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jewel Vanderheide. I live in Highland Lakes, New Jersey. So I came here today to hopefully have you guys consider what I have to say. As Zoe stated before, the Declaration of Independence says that we have the right to overthrow the government. The Declaration of Independence says that we not only have the right, but we also have the duty to alter or abolish any government that does not secure our unalienable rights, including life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So I'm here today because I don't know if you know what's going on with the school board meetings and the lack of consideration. I myself, I have asthma. The mask is inhibitive to my health, and according to Executive Order 251, in which they state they are following, they still do not allow me inside the building without a mask, even though it is proven to be inhibitive to my health, in which I went to the last meeting, December 13th, and they shut down the meeting to the public and they ended up making it virtual because I told them I cannot wear a mask, it's inhibitive to my health. So they're following half an executive order, part of it. Either way, I've been going to these school board meetings since August. I haven't really been involved in the town up until recently because I've noticed that there needs to be more people involved in a sense to where what's going on with these kids in the school. I brought plenty of documentation stating how masks are actually inhibitive to your health and they actually do worsen your immune system than make anything better for you, and considering you're restricting your oxygen. They're fear mongering these kids in these schools, in which if the child is wearing their mask improperly, they get an after school detention. Second time they get a lunch detention first time. Second time is an hour after school detention. Third time is a 2-hour after school detention, and it leads up to them losing their bus privileges. So they're using fear to get these kids to comply to something that they are safe from. So kids have better immune systems than all of us pretty much, and to inhibit them, muzzle them 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, what do you think is going on with their mental health? I mean, we talk about how the potency of weed now affects the youth's brain, but we're not talking about psychologically how growing up in a faceless society and being harassed by teachers consistently for wearing a mask, how that's affecting these kids psychologically. Schools are supposed to be a place where kids go to grow, to learn, to be molded and shaped into a better human being, but instead they are being stressed out, fear-mongered, and harassed by teachers. And not only that, it also impedes on their development internally. They're still growing, they need oxygen. You know what I mean? The Executive Order 251, they were discriminating against me at the school board meetings, and I feel like that's a liability to the town. Being that they kicked me out and I have a right to be there at the public meeting, I'm concerned for these kids. There's a narrative that's going on right now that is starting to crumble. And that false narrative is, I don't know if you guys keep up with not the mainstream media, but what's going on in other countries and how the British Prime Minister actually lifted all the mandates, the vaccine mandates, the mask mandates and all of that, because there's conversations happening all over on a large scale about what's really going on with these vaccine mandates and these mask mandates. It's a tyrannical overtake of this country, honestly, and it does impede on our unalienable rights to breathe fresh air, to hug your grandmother, to do all the basic things that we normally do as American families, you know what I mean? Dr. Robert Malone, he is the inventor of the mRNA. He was on Joe Rogan's podcast, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but that podcast had more views, more than any other mainstream media in the past 2 years. So these large-scale conversations are happening. People are becoming more aware of what's really going on behind the scenes with this communist agenda. And I think that right now the narrative is starting to crumble, and I feel like we should take that step forward and be a part of this, like be ahead of the game in a sense to where we start doing what's right for these kids. The school board claims that they care about these children, this and that. We care about their mental health, but we don't care about what's actually going on in the schools when it comes to wearing their masks. I feel like that's more important than right now. This is happening every single day, 5 days a week.
Thank you.
So
Before you go, your comments are well received. I think you're sitting up here looking at people who are choosing not to wear masks and people who are choosing to wear masks.
yeah, that's pro-choice.
It becomes an issue of choice, exactly.
Yeah.
However, the issue that you're bringing up is an issue about the schools, and I think your direction is best served by getting yourself and people who maybe think like yourself and going to the meetings and affecting change that way.
That's the issue. They won't let me in the meetings without wearing a mask myself. And the issue with that is that they are following an executive order, but they're not following it fully.
Well, I can't give you direction on that other than to say there's a date in November that we all have and, do what you can.
First Tuesday of the month.
First Tuesday of the month. It's actually the first Tuesday following Monday, however they term it. But you can possibly go there and see if you can affect change in that regard. I don't disagree with you, but
Is there anything that possibly you can address with the board?
they are totally autonomous. I served on the board for 15 years. Mrs. Bucieri served on the board, and we are two different bodies. We're governed under two different laws, statutes, and we communicate, but we have no say-so over what they can or shouldn't do or should do. Okay? But thank you
I
very much.
appreciate your comments.
Yes.
Yeah. It is, because it's just they discriminate against me for my health issues and then they kick me out. Like that's a liability. And I feel like that's an issue for the town as well, because these kids where they're growing up being molded, they're growing up and being molded here in these schools. So I think that's important for the town to address, but
I
understand.
agree. Thank you.
Thanks.
Is there anybody else? Anybody on
Yes, I have Eric Card.
Eric Card?
Eric Card, yes.
Mr. Card?
Yes.
Yes, you have something, please?
Yes, you
What-
can hear me?
Yes, what section of town are you from, sir?
I live in Highland Lakes,
Okay,
and thank you again for taking my comment here. 2 weeks ago, I had spoke to you about the trouble that I'm having with zoning and building and township management, and how I went through the entire process and went straight to the mayor. And I have not heard from the mayor since September. And you said it was a pretty simple problem and the mayor will get back to me, and he agreed so. Well, still haven't heard anything from the mayor.
did you hear anything from your business administrator?
Haven't heard a word from a soul.
Mr. Mayor? I received your memo, but unfortunately, I wasn't able to open it. So,
I sent a letter to Mr. Card. Unfortunately, I don't have any email address or contact from him in the town, period.
okay,
But I did send a letter.
okay,
So he should be getting that soon.
thank you.
Okay, just making sure that was sent because I haven't heard anything.
Mr. Card, do you want to offline provide an email address? Can he message Marcy that we could just forward it to him so he doesn't have to wait for the mail?
Sure, absolutely.
I don't want you to say it out loud, but maybe you can private message Marcy, and then we can email you the mayor's response.
That would be fine. I do know that the mayor does have my email and he does have my phone number, but that's okay. I will coordinate whatever information, or I'll call and leave word tomorrow at his office with Miss Mills.
Okay.
And give him the information he needs from me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Is there anybody else?
Yes, Kate Salerno.
Mrs. Salerno?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so first I was just hoping to get
Excuse me,
some.
can you tell me where you live? What section
Sure,
of town?
I don't see
formerly
any-
Lake Walk,
I'm sorry?
formerly Lake Wallkill, and I'm a current Sussex County resident.
Okay, so you don't live in town?
Mute my audio.
Not currently, no.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so I just was hoping to get some clarification. I was wondering if what I just heard before was one of the council members openly advocating for the woman who spoke before to organize a group of people to show up at a Board of Education meeting to speak out about mask wearing and potentially show up, I guess, in a mass group without wearing masks. To that end, I'm also very confused about the point that this woman was trying to make about her health restricting her from wearing a mask, and yet she's entering into buildings and situations that, you know, are clearly full of germs. It's not a potentially safe situation for someone whose health is impeded to be walking into the first place, but yet we're concerned about the mask wearing there. And again, I think this is like a trend that unfortunately I'm seeing here and throughout this county. You know, I know this has existed for my time. I've been in this county for 35 years now, but just listening to this entire meeting and listening to the back and forth, the heated back and forth earlier with the mayor and I believe it's the council president regarding these issues that seemed very organized in their attempt to attack and almost bully the mayor. And yet I still have heard no council member condemn the obviously racist remarks that were made. I mean, the post that was made by Ms. Palladini was removed because it was clearly openly racist. So I don't really, at this point, I mean, I don't know why I would expect any elected officials to openly speak out against racism. We have yet to hear that in 2 years now, since 2020, for the most part. But I would like to just reiterate, I'm hoping that members of this council would just speak against racism and the racist remarks that were made. And I just want to put it on record here to note like the blatant bias that I'm seeing. And while I do appreciate the back and forth, there was another woman that mentioned, you know, healthy discussions in disagreeing with Zoe Heath. I have no objection to that whatsoever, but I do think that there's a difference between healthy discussion and disagreement and just what I feel like has been witnessed in this meeting this evening, what I feel like is being witnessed in this county. And I don't know, I mean, it's, I have my own feelings about the cannabis ordinance, but I just think that this discussion even goes beyond that. So yeah, at the very least, I would hope that you would please just at least bring up the blatant racism from that Facebook post and condemn it. Everything else, obviously, we're gonna see how this all plays out. And, you know, it is what it is at this point, but yes, please, like, I would love, while you have the mayor sitting there, for you to just condone, you know, just not condone race, just speak out against racism. That's it. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Is there anybody else?
Yes, Ann Larson.
As Mrs. Larson, only in
Good
the
evening.
first?
Can you hear me this time?
Yes.
Great. Thank you very much for hearing me again. I have a few things to mention. First off, I don't know why anyone is listening to a woman who is a former resident. She has no bearing on what's going on in this township today. Nice that she wants to observe, but for her to put her 2 cents in is not necessary, and it's not helpful no matter what. Secondly, the very articulate young woman who expressed her issues regarding the school district. I have to say that I hear her, I understand her, where she's coming from, but I was thinking perhaps in the mayor would be helpful in his, maybe he'll bump into Josh Gottheimer in the hallways and perhaps he can explain to him that the township, his residents in Vernon Township are in need of the repurposed medications, the monoclonal antibodies, and perhaps maybe with the proper treatment that is being strangled from the patients, we could actually get this thing under control. Instead of the masking, we've done everything that's been asked of us. They've masked, they've vaccinated, they've boosted, they've done it all, and we still have no medications for those that are being stricken ill. So perhaps some of your friendship with Josh Gottheimer and other executives in Trenton, maybe that would be helpful for the residents of Vernon Township. That said, I have to tell you that I have been, unfortunately, and respectfully, very, very disappointed with the mayor's performance. Both last week, it was an abysmal performance. You were unprepared for a meeting, totally unprepared for a meeting. The council president asked you for a few things last meeting, and you interrupted repeatedly to question, well, what do I need? And I mean, you could have done that after the meeting if you were concerned or confused. So I can't help but take from this that is obfuscation, and you are looking to disrupt the meeting. Just like what went on here, you know, you didn't get a chance to nominate someone for the board, and instead you're taking your time speaking about that. We have a lot of things to fix, and here you are. I'm sure Mr. Rizzuto would let you put her on the agenda next week. So why you're carrying on and having people calling in about someone that they didn't get around to, this isn't helpful. None of this is helpful. Okay. And thank you, Mr. Rizzuto. I do thank you very much for pointing out the glaring defects in what's been going on. I mean, the township residents are facing a lot of expenses. I mean, we are at an all-time high with inflation. Oil to fill the oil tank is what, $1,000, $1,200. The gas is very high, and here we are spending money on new carpet in the municipal building. I mean, you're looking to spend money on this pump track, a lot of money on a pump track, and you couldn't even stop the spending and say, hey, no one's been on this carpet for 2 years. Maybe we could get another 2 years out of it and save the taxpayers a few dollars. I just feel like it's tone deaf, that there's a disconnect, that you're not recognizing what your constituents are dealing with, what the taxpayers are dealing with, and we're just going full speed ahead on minutia, carpet in the courthouse. This is insane. So seriously, I ask you to take a hard look, and perhaps you should be a little more prepared when you go to a meeting. You know, a pen would be helpful. Perhaps you could have brought your laptop and had some of those numbers available. Maybe you could have excused yourself last week and gone and gotten a file when you were asked how much did we spend for this and how much did we spend for that and how much is projected on the pump track. To be totally unprepared, I don't know why you come to the meeting. So respectfully, everyone agrees you are a very kind, very, very nice person. Everyone said what a nice person you are. But I don't know that what we need is a nice guy. We need someone who can take a hard look at numbers and see what's going on. So I apologize. I do not mean to sound rude or at all, but we got to change things that are going on here. This is going the wrong direction. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. And with all due respect, I apologize if I came across as rude. That's not the intention, but these are some hard facts that need to be dealt with. Thank you and good night.
Thank you.
I have Walter Marsico.
Mr. Marsico.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you, Council President. Walter Marsico, 40-year plus resident of Settlers Notch. Eric Card, if you're still listening in, I suggest you reach out to me. I could help you a lot. It's waltermarsico@yahoo.com. Anyway, at the November 15th council meeting, Councilman Pitsker discussed how 2 stray bullets from a neighboring gun range struck a home in Glen Harbor Estates due to target practice with no documented control standards, rules, or safety procedures in place. Pitsker also stated that our residents should not have to live in fear of a bullet striking their house for the sake of target practice on private property ranges where safety measures could not be assured. Pitsker was attempting to pass an ordinance that would restrict the gun rights of responsible gun owners in private ranges. He also placed blame on responsible private ranges and gun owners. This reckless and foolish ordinance has also directed the spotlight towards responsible private property owners and gun ranges alike, who have absolutely no documented evidence of reckless firearm practice or endangerment to other residents. This has also caused residents with Glen Harbor Estates and surrounding areas to focus negative attention on the local property owners who practice responsible and safe firearm use. This is considered slander to private firearm ranges within the area who don't have any documented cases to restrict the Second Amendment rights of firearm use on private property. Because of Andrew Pitsker, Harry Shortway, Mayor Burrell, all who have supported this, putting the blame towards private firearm ranges. I've seen posts on social media attacking these local private property owners. These residents are calling for our responsible gun owners to have the rights restricted by passing a ludicrous ordinance because of one irresponsible gun owner who I'm going to discuss shortly. This resident goes on to say that this is not an attack on gun owners, but an ordinance to protect responsible gun owners and their families. When the proper due diligence is not followed, you end up hurting the innocent people. Tonight, I want to draw your attention to two police reports that I have in my possession. The first one explains that a homeowner from Glen Harbor Estates found a stray bullet on her patio after hearing gunshots the night before, which would be 6/6/2020. The second police report explains that Vernon Police conducted an investigation into gunshots from Glen Harbor Estates and Camp Sussex. Vernon Police stated that they made contact with Andrew Pitzker, head of security for Camp Sussex. Councilman Andrew Pitzker stated that he was target shooting at Camp Sussex that previous day, 6/6/2020. Pitzker was advised of the bullets found on the neighboring property, and he went on to state that he would no longer be shooting at Camp Sussex. Pitzker lied and violated local government ethic laws while serving as a council member for Vernon Township. Because of his irresponsible behavior, disregard for the well-being of our residents, I am demanding that he be immediately removed from any local government office and that an immediate investigation be conducted by either the county prosecutor's office or the New Jersey Attorney General. It's time to bring this lawlessness to an end and start holding the elected officials responsible for their own actions. This is exactly why I, along with many of the other residents, objected to retired police officer Shortway's comments a while back, where he said, "I think I'm safe in saying that everyone on the council is a gun owner, and we support the Second Amendment." Well, Mr. Shortway, as you said, Police Officer Shortway, we are afraid of what you and Pitzker are capable of. We are now aware.
Mr. Marsico, just letting you know, you have about 30 seconds left.
I thought we have 5 minutes. Okay. We are afraid of what you and Pitzker are capable of with a firearm in your hand. I'll cut through most of this. I'm calling on Mayor Burrell to conduct an immediate investigation into Andrew Pitzker, Harry Shortway for attempting to pass an ordinance with no documented wrongdoing by our neighboring gun ranges. Look into the negligent firearm safety of Andrew Pitzker, covering up a very serious situation while acting in an official capacity as a councilman. If we do not see a resolution in this matter, I will personally contact the county prosecutor's office as well as the New Jersey State General.
Thank you. Thank you.
Peg DeStassi.
Mr. Stassi? Mr. Stassi?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
That's not gonna work.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, can you hear me?
Unmute.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, fine, thank you. I'm sorry. I'm a member of the Environmental Commission, but tonight I'm speaking for myself. I am disappointed in our previous council members, Andy Pitzker, to put it mildly. It is a disgrace that he did not own up to his actions, did not put the fears of our neighbors at rest. He has targeted practice at Camp Sussex without thinking about the ramifications. Then he tried to cover it up by placing the blame on innocents by writing an ordinance. This is not who I want representing me in our town commissions and or any other authority. I hereby ask for his resignation immediately. In addition, since Harry Shortway involved himself in this situation, I also feel he has been dishonest with the residents of Glen Harbor and Vernon and does not have the confidence of being in the council, and ask for his resignation. Our other committees and commissions must be held to the highest of level of principles. I agree with Sean Clarkin. The mayor should be sworn in at every meeting and be held for his statements, as he seems to be able to waver with whatever the wind blows. As for Mike Fury about testifying to the MUA, why? He's no longer on the MUA. Why was he giving the report? Mrs. Edwards, I agree with you. There is no racism in our town, only agreements on issues. There is not a racist bone in Jessie's body, as she has fought for the Indians and was Howard's biggest campaigner. So where these comments are coming from, I do not understand. I personally have known Jessie for 30 years, and she is the most giving and honest person there is in Vernon. She has dedicated 35 years and millions of dollars to the betterment of our community. I also agree with Ann Larson, totally. You were unprepared, Mayor, disrespectful, and not moving Vernon forward. You need to work out the issues, and you are a stumbling block. Are you hearing us? I think not. Carpet, road signs. Yeah, you're a nice person. I voted for you, and I like you actually as a person. But are you doing the right job for us as a mayor? I think not. For those of you who have condemned Mrs. Paldini, who has done more for our Vernon in the last 35 years, she has poured millions of dollars into this town, advanced the historical earmarks, and most importantly, brought national recognition to Vernon. Stop buying into Shortway and Howard's condemnation of her. She is a good person. She only has a good heart for Vernon. Until you can match her accommodations, I suggest you hold your venom. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. DeStasi. Anybody else?
Yes, I have Jessie Palladini.
Mrs. Palladini? Mrs. Palladini?
Okay, I unmuted twice. Did it work?
Okay, we can hear you now.
Okay, you know, I'm not even gonna dignify the false malicious accusations about me by the mayor's cheering squad that he has drawn to this meeting, especially those from out of town. I find it outrageous that they just come to a town meeting and claim that I made statements, but nobody even says what statements I allegedly made. No validation whatsoever. That's because they're lies. I've said nothing, ever. So Mayor Burrell, cut it out. To the gentleman who wants to silence and censor me and my comments, I also ask you to censor and silence Howard Burrell's slanderous and disgusting comments about me on Facebook. I didn't hear you say anything about that.
Mrs. Palladini, can we keep this
Yes, we
to?
can. Yes, we can.
Thank you.
Even tonight at this very meeting, the mayor disparaged me for no reason at all. Now I want to address a couple of things. The mayor absolutely violated the law by not getting council approval for the expenditures of phase 1 and phase 2. See case law in Judge Weissenbeck's ruling in Rinker versus Township of Vernon. He absolutely said that all expenditures must be approved by the council. Also, Corey is wrong. That road is on the scenic byway, and it would absolutely require state DOT oversight and approval. We know this from the scenic byway management plan. Therefore, I have serious concerns about the veracity of Mr. Stoner's statements. I ask you to build the bicycle pump track at Veterans Memorial Park, and let's be done with it. Now, talk about a cover-up. That was an excellent choice of words by Walter Marsico. Andrew Pitzker has shown the epitome of hypocrisy and has disgraced himself. I won't quote what he said because Mr. Marsico already did, but to say our residents should not have to live in fear of bullets striking their house for the sake of target practice with firearms, yet he is the one firing the bullets and firearms into these homes. I have spoken with 2 people who live in that area, and they were flabbergasted when I told them that it was Andy Pitzker who shot the guns. How deceptive, how immoral. Shame on former Councilman Pitzker. In closing, I call for Andy Pitzker's resignation from the MUA, and I ask Mayor Burrell and the council to request his resignation from the MUA. No town official, elected or appointed, should lie to the public and deceive them and then remain in any position for the township. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else?
Yeah, Al Losco. Mr. Losco.
Mr. Losco?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, hi, Al Wasco of Glen Harbor here. Look, the bottom line is we just want safety for the neighborhood. We understand the Second Amendment rights. We have plenty of gun owners in our neighborhood here. And quite frankly, one of our residents, Anne Marie Driscoll, wrote a great email. And mysteriously, the first thing the council did was they struck down reading the emails and didn't even read her email at the last meeting, which I thought was a shame because it was very well put together. But I just have to say that I don't understand what is so wrong with keeping a neighborhood safe. I don't know where there's opposition to that. And, it just boggles my mind. Would this happen in Bergen County? Would they stand for it in a different county? I don't think so. I don't think that would fly at all. So I just want you to consider the safety of the people. God forbid something happens here and you guys knew about this and could have done something. Let me tell you, that would be pretty sad that you guys knew what happened here and didn't act. But I hope you do. I'm not going to name call. I respect all of you, including the mayor and the council people there. And I just want you guys to know that this is very important to our residents here. And just don't want this to happen again. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much. And whatever you could do, we appreciate here. Thank you.
I have Rick Hoffman.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, hi, my name is Rick Hoffman. I am a member of a resident of Glen Harbor Estates in Glenwood. Yeah, I just want to address the gun ordinance and how that has fallen off your agenda. There's a gentleman that spoke earlier, and he was talking about how he doesn't want gun owners being hurt, et cetera, et cetera. Well, that's not what we're trying to do. We're basically trying to keep somebody from being hurt, like some young children or neighbors who walk around the neighborhood during the summer months. I live in that neighborhood. I know the house that was hit. I know the person that lived in the house, and I see his kids playing in the yard all the time. And the bullet did strike right above his garage. And it didn't come from Camp Sussex, I can tell you that. It's a completely different direction. And I don't know anything about the Andrew Pitsker thing. I just know that this happened. There is a police report that is available. And I know that former Mayor Shortway was working on this, and I hope he continues to do so, because it's just mind-boggling to me that somebody can buy a piece of property, get a bulldozer, set up a berm, and start shooting, and with no rules or regulations around it whatsoever. And what this person is shooting is a variety of different weapons. Some of them sound like very high caliber weapons. I don't know. I'm not on his property, but if they're pointing toward the direction of our neighborhood and a mistake happened, yes, so we understand it was a mistake. It can't happen again. So having a gun ordinance that actually doesn't restrict the person from doing it, it just creates a safer environment for everyone involved. I think that ordinance should be back on the agenda, and it should be taken seriously, because I don't think any of you who are sitting next to a gun range or in a neighborhood next to a gun range would want that happening next to you when there's kids running around and people walking, and it's a lake community and people are at the beach. Not to mention the noise. I mean, everybody understands that there's hunting up in Sussex, and during the 4th of July, there's fireworks. But when this guy starts going, it's nonstop for a couple hours, and it's very, very loud. And when that happens, the kids all scatter and run inside their house because their parents bring them in because they're afraid. That's wrong. That's all I have to say. Please consider getting that gun ordinance back on the agenda. I would appreciate it. And so would everyone in our neighborhood. And we're not going to be quiet about it. We're going to keep bringing it up. Thank you for listening to me.
Paul Weber.
Mr. Weber? Mr. Weber?
You're muted.
Mr. Weber? Mr. Weber, you're muted. Telling him that, I don't know what's the.
It's like he took his hand down.
Oh, he took his hand down.
Okay.
Maybe he didn't mean to put his hand up.
All right. Anybody else?
I have Sean Mazur.
Mr. Mazer?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Sean Mazur, architect, 5 Sleepy Hollow. I wanted to touch base back on the bicycle pump track and the trail. In my reviewing of the bid documents and of the bids, my question is who qualified this bidder? As it appears, the bidder was not qualified in the first place. He had never actually done a bicycle pump track. And also, I mean, wouldn't this fall on Corey Stoner and, his errors and omissions? I mean, if he's the one managing this project, is he's the one that approved these bidders? That's one of my questions. You don't have to answer that right now. And then the other part is ADA accessibility. I've been doing architecture and ADA accessibility, American Disabilities Act, accessibility. And I've been doing modernization for schools and doing ADA ramps for 25 years. And I know what it entails. And I also know that road quite well, as I did the Bliss Salon there. So I was back and forth to FW Webb several times. And the traffic in that parking lot in H&H Auto Plaza and down FW Webb is a mess. You're going to add bicycle pump track traffic to that. and it's going to be even worse. So for Mr. Stoner to say that, well, down the line, we don't really need a traffic study. We don't really need a traffic light. But if I'm directed to do so, well, then we'll do it. I mean, that's just ridiculous. Of course, you're going to need those things. You need them right now. I mean, it's, some of the council members have expressed their opinion on trying to pull out of there, and it is a mess. There's no curbs there. People pull out from all different directions. So let's add kids on bicycles to it, and let's add some, add people pulling in and out of there. It's going to be a mess. So I'm glad you guys put this thing on hold. It really should not be in that location. There's too much stuff. It's going to cost way more than you're even thinking about. So that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Francine Vince.
Francine Vince?
Yes.
Ms. Vince?
Hello, this is Francine Vince. I'm in the Glenwood section of Vernon. Thank you for hearing me this evening. I want to speak on behalf of the safety ordinance as well. I'm asking the council to reintroduce the ordinance. I hear a lot of talk about the Second Amendment, and if I'm correct, that is about the right to bear arms. The safety ordinance has nothing to do with infringing on anybody's rights to own guns. This safety ordinance is really only talking about providing common sense barriers around certain gun ranges so that these shooting ranges can happen in complete safety. I heard somebody else talk about not wanting gun owners to be hurt or harmed, not wanting ranges to be hurt or harmed. I think there would be more damage to a gun owner or a range if an accident happened that would cause the death or injury to somebody in a neighborhood. So this is actually a safety ordinance that not only protects our own residents, it also protects the gun owners and the ranges. So I ask you all to please consider reintroducing this ordinance. I know that members of our neighborhood would be happy to serve on a task force with you to help you with any portion of it. And I thank you for listening to me tonight.
Thank you.
I don't see any other hands.
Okay. Seeing no other comments?
One more.
Oh, sorry.
Hello, my name is Teresa Scoro Coughlin. I am under obligation to give a full disclosure that I am also an elected official in Vernon. I am a Board of Education member entering my third term. And I am here because I have submitted an Oprah last week, an extensive one, asking questions about short-term rentals. There's much confusion in my neighborhood about short-term rentals because years ago, a home down the street tried to open a bed and breakfast, and due to zoning, it was not allowed. Upon speaking with multiple neighbors, excuse me, who have built their homes, no one seems to understand how an Airbnb was able to end up in our neighborhood. So what I did was submitted an Oprah. I look forward to receiving the results. And in addition, trying to get to the bottom of what happened years ago, what happened now, and to our knowledge that there's been no change to the zoning laws. So I wanted to make you all aware. My contact information is on there. And if you have any questions, please reach out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve Dunlop, Williamsville Estates. I spoke with the attorney before the meeting and all of my apologies, and I want to do it again. Talking about Mayor Burrell's moving ahead with a project for land that wasn't owned by the township. I kind of made a disparaging comment about the attorney as how could the attorney be a part of this? It's come to my attention, the attorney wasn't even consulted on this matter. So I do want to offer my apologies. I did before the meeting. He told me no worries. And I know that.
Thank you.
I feel that it needs to be said. I feel the mayor has been very deceptive. I said this at the meeting in November, December and January. I hate to belabor the point, but after what I've heard from him tonight, I believe he continues to be deceptive. I don't think he's an honest man. I don't think he can be trusted with the comments that he made tonight. There's been many more questions than there have been answers. When I come before this council, I sometimes am reminded of going before my board when I worked in the oil industry. And if I had ever gone before them to tell them that I was going to do a project on a piece of property, and they asked me, well, do we own the property? And I told them no, but we're going to own the property. Well, why don't we own the property? Well, there's some possible environmental issues, but don't worry about it. We're going to go ahead and move ahead with the project anyway. I would have found myself in the parking lot with a cardboard box and not to be welcomed back in the building. His response has been to say that he's attacked on Facebook, that people are mean to him. It's not an easy job. It's good to be the king, but the king has to answer too. Sometimes the king has no clothes. And I'm glad we have this new council. I was very happy tonight to hear some of the things that I heard. It's nice that we're taking a look at this. I think that there was a small group that was trying to push this through rapidly before the new council got here. And I think that's shown in the way that some of this has transpired tonight. I hope that the council will continue to ask the tough questions and force some answers, because I still don't think tonight we have all the answers. I don't believe there were meetings with Andy Mulvihill's attorneys. That's not what I was told. I was told there were 2 meetings. There was supposed to be a list of items that needed to be accomplished. No one has seen that list. I understand it's been opened and there's been no response. I hope the council will continue to press the mayor to get to the bottom of this, and that we put a stop to things just being done in a manner that does not comport with the way things should be done. And I apologize for taking the time, but mainly I just wanted to apologize to the attorney, and that's sincere.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Unnecessary, but thank you. Thank you. I just said unnecessary, but thank you.
I know.
Is there anyone else?
I do have Paul Weber back. Mr. Weber?
Mr. Weber?
Oh, hello?
Yes.
Oh, my God.
Can you hear us?
Yes, I'm in Glenwood. We live in Glenwood.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Making so.
Please
You guys
continue.
are doing a good, huh? You guys are doing a good job right now, just right now.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anything else? No, okay. Thank you. All right. Is there anyone else? No,
That's it.
okay.
That's all.
Seeing no one wishing to address the council, can I hear a motion to close the?
I'd like to make a motion, we close public comments.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Ms. Bucieri. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. The council comments. Ms. Bucieri?
It is late. I do have just a couple comments. Just look at my place real quick here. I'm really grateful for the coalition women that were able to give us information. So I hope my fellow council members will take a chance to look at it before we discuss the ordinance further at our next meeting. And I do want to clarify, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, Siegel family, but Healthy Times will not exist once this is, if your partnership with Shrine Group.
Couple things. First of all, it will not exist in that present location. That doesn't mean we can't exist someplace else. And the second point is, we're not sure we would exist regardless.
Okay, so, but I think
That's cell cap.
yeah, exactly. They can't be in the same location. Yeah, obviously it's a free, you could potentially open up anywhere if you so choose, but in that location. And that, I just wanted to clarify that because that was a quick question and that was my understanding, but I wanted to make sure I was correct. Okay, thank you. No, I think that's fine. Thank you. I just wanted that question answered. So I think that's an important point to make when we're considering that. I did have a question about, maybe for Mr. Zelinski, about changing that ordinance. So when the ordinance was originally written, it was 2,000 feet from a park, school,
Yep.
a ball field, those types of places. So now we're talking about potentially changing that ordinance. Can that ordinance be changed in any way, or can it only be changed in a way where it increases potential locations? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, can we
Not
make it
sure I
more,
follow.
can we make it more stringent, or can we only loosen it?
You can certainly make it more stringent.
So that there can be other changes made to it, not just loosening parameters.
Correct. Right now, the ordinance has been introduced. So if there's going to be a further amendment to the ordinance at the next reading, that amendment would become the new ordinance's first reading, and it would go through a second reading at a later date.
Okay, I was just curious. I wasn't sure what the legality was, and I think I always think it's really good to get more information. I was happy to hear that the Vernon Coalition had reached out to Vernon and Newton and Sussex to, because those are the three towns in our county that were discussing retail sales of cannabis. I'm glad that Newton took their offer of help and worked with them to write that ordinance. I'm disappointed that our council didn't at that time. I don't know if we have an opportunity to do that now. And if we do, maybe spending a little more time with them, maybe getting some information from Newton. I know they're open to, their mayor and council are open to sharing information with us if that's appropriate. Just to get that feedback, I think is really important. This is very new. This is something that I'm looking at this here, 62% opted out, 40% out of the remainder that opted in, only 40%, 40% allowed everything but retail. And 88% of the Sussex County towns opted out of retail. So we're in the minority, but there are other towns that have opted to have retail. So I think getting information from people that have done it already, with data and feedback from professionals. The Vernon Coalition and their organization has been around for 50 years. They've got a lot of resources that we don't have access to. So I think I'd like to see that. I'd like to see more collaboration. And if we can tweak this and do it in a way that